Welcome back, SMITE fans. After a great set number 1, we can only hope set number 2 will be a lot of the same. In Mifflin, I think it might be. Renegades up against Rival. Rival has certainly looked like one of the best teams in the league still, but clearly not unbestable. They lost a game to E United earlier on this week, and Renegades continue to be one of these teams that you just can't nail down exactly what they're going to do week to week.
A lot of that not being able to nail it down, I really think does come from the 408 and that support role. He's been consistently just pulling out, at this point, I'm going to call them random picks. How often do you see an Osiris locked in and you're like, yeah, that's going to be support. 408, maybe it's a 50% chance. And having that wild factor, that X factor on your squad where you just can't predict the draft at all is actually incredibly important, incredibly potent to keep the enemy team on their toes.
He's been an explosive player, man, one way or the other. And that's kind of what we expected, but I didn't expect it to be so consistently great from Jake. And I'm not saying that he's been okay or anything like that. He has hard carried games for this Renegades team. I think that he did it up against Space Station, and it wouldn't surprise me if he's able to do it here today again. But that's got to be a focus from Rival. And I think that that's where one of their strengths is when they can get this dual lane rolling of PBM and PandaCat. They look nearly unstoppable.
PBM is one of the only non-junglers in the league tied for top first bloods at exactly 4. Every single other person that's tied at that rank is a jungler. This guy has been able to consistently play through that early game, but Renegades consistently have been able to make themselves known in the mid. They really just wait it out in the early, get into that level 15, level 12 state, then they start to make these objective-centric plays. I'm more concerned about Renegades once they start to transition a lead. We see them sometimes meander around the map and not really know where to go once they do get that driver's seat.
It's a team that still seems to have some trouble finding its voice in those mid-game skirmishes. I completely agree with you. They have to figure out exactly the way that they want to play the map. But sometimes organized chaos is exactly what the Renegades want, because they have LASBRA in the jungle, who seems to always be looking for a fight. SoloOrTroll, Venenu. I mean, these guys are down to get their hands dirty. And we haven't even talked about Jake in that duo lane.
We haven't even talked about BaRRaCCuDDa yet. This guy's been having a fantastic year. Uncharacteristic, aggressive play, jumping into full enemy teams, finding huge quadra, triple kills consistently. LASBRA, as you said, has been having a fantastic year as well. And a lot of that is his willingness to camp out that duo lane and play through the star players. They know that Jake and Bear are going to be the ones that are able to carry a game, so LASBRA facilitates that very often. And sometimes, just on accident, he'll pull these 7-0 leads, these 6-0 leads, huge pressure out of the jungle. Renegades are incredibly reliant on their jungler, however, so if Rival's able to force him out just a teensy bit, maybe that'll slow down the early game.
I do feel like there are times where LASBRA tends to roam around looking for ganks so much, especially on that left-hand side, that he can end up falling behind and farm a little bit, and I think that's a wise point for Rival to realize that, yes, their duo lane is built to play aggressively, but against the Renegades, maybe you want to pick something a little bit more passive and just let the game come to you. Renegades have also been doing this start where Venenu starts at speed, LASBRA on the left-hand side of the map. We'll see how Rival wants to combat that this time around, because they have, I think, Rival that is, an opportunity here to extend themselves out of reach, out of the rest of the standings, at least for this week. And for me, I've got to be looking at what SamForSoccer is going to do in the jungle, because up until now, I think he's looked like the best jungler in the league.
Easily the best jungler in the league for my money. Sam for safety, Sam for sociopath, whatever you want to call him. This guy is one of the most consistent, highest performing junglers in the league. He's always getting leads. He's always finding early kills, usually finds it in mid, and he's really a progenitor of a lot of these new meta picks. Pele, that was Sam first. Thanatos, Sam did it first. He's able to find picks that work for him, and the meta really has adjusted around him.
Well, we had a chance to sit down and talk with Sam a little bit earlier on today. Let's take a listen to what he and Gormizer had to say.
I'm here with SamForSoccer, the jungle for Rival, and I'm actually really excited to be able to do this just because Rival has been a very interesting team to watch in the league, because it's been a lot of growth throughout this first couple of weeks, a little bit of growing pains as people swapped roles and as you joined the squad, and now you feel like you're kind of right back, well, maybe not right back to where you were, but definitely a team that's taking the league by force. And I just want to know, you joining this squad this year after having everything kind of grow together, how are you feeling?
I'm definitely feeling pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I'd say the year's probably gone as well as you could like expect so far with like a Ben roll swapping to mid or a Twig. Um, I think I don't know if right now we're in like sole possession of like first place. Not that it really matters. We're still like halfway into the split, but like
Yeah.
I feel like so far it's gone like pretty well. Maybe some losses we think we shouldn't have lost or could have ended, but I feel like that's always just gonna happen during a season.
Yeah, it's the growing pains as it comes through, and of course
Yeah.
you have to experience the losses to then get a little bit better. And one of
Exactly.
those things that I think has been very interesting about this season, it was also true of last season because I mean you wouldn't have gotten an MVP otherwise. Jungle has been very important, and it feels almost like it is the pace of the jungler right now that is setting the tone of the game. So I just want to know, where do you think the pressure is on the map for you specifically to kind of make sure that lane goes well or this person gets ganked enough? Does it change from game to game, or is it pretty consistent with your teammates?
Well, I think I'd say like jungler and support kind of control the pace overall, but generally I'd say it changes. It's pretty comp dependent overall, and I mean, if you look like team to team, a lot of teams like to play different places also. But yeah, I don't know if I could really say it's consistently just one place you're always trying to look to go. You kind of gotta like analyze like comp and yeah, how you want to push your lead.
Change it on the fly at the beginning of the day. Every time you lock in, you're now having to reevaluate where you're going. But this is, you're going up against Renegades later today, but instead of looking maybe directly at them, let's take a look back. You had a 3-game set versus United, and I just want to know, what takeaways did y'all get from that set? It being a little more long-winded, I think, overall. Is there something that you learned that you're going to be able to apply today against Renegades?
That we learned, I don't know if necessarily. I mean, you can always learn from every loss you have. Maybe we got like picked a bit too much in the early game. Maybe just being like a little sloppier than we'd like. Some like draft issues, maybe game 2 for us. That we can all like take into the game, but I think the teams don't really have that similar play style. So I don't know if you can always just like say you can. It's that like specific of a transfer,
Yeah. Well, you'll get to stand up, brush off the long set, and go into
Yeah.
what you are hoping will be a quick set against Renegades.
sure.
I know I'm excited to be able to watch the games a little bit later. I'm sure chat is as well. So good luck in your games, and thank you for your time.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Always a treat to have Sam4Soccer do an interview on the broadcast. And Miff, I mean, this guy and the rest of this rival team, I think that you look for the weak link, where are we going to capitalize? It's really hard to find one, man. I mean, even if Sam is playing at his best, you look at Twig, he's averaging the most player damage among all players right now. fineokay is fineokay in that solo lane, super consistent, still a hard carry. We've talked a lot about the duo lane. I mean, this rival team just seems chock full of talent, and I don't know where you attack them.
No explicit weaknesses in the draft or in the team at all, and that's really where the consistency comes from. I think if you have to target anything out from rival, it's trying to slow down their early game. It's making sure that Mike can't get on something that he's incredibly comfortable with. When Mike is ahead, he turns into a secondary jungler. He starts ganking out mid. We see him rotate over into the solo lane. If you can keep the aggression on rival's long lane, maybe you stifle a little bit of that signature aggression in the early, you can start opening up the map to play however you want.
We'll see how they want to play with their picks, which we are about to go over now for game number 1 of this set. Renegades, looking to find an upset victory, but would it really be that shocking at this point? I mean, Renegades have looked really, really strong for a lot of sets so far this year. I wouldn't be absolutely floored if Renegades were to come away with a victory here.
I'm not married to any single one of the votes that I've cast for any of these sets. Now that Obey's finally found their first dub, we know that anyone can take a dub. Renegades, although the standings reflect a little bit of a poorer history, these guys have still consistently looked incredibly strong against every single team. Despite losing, they also look like they could take almost any game. And the same can be said about just about every team in the league. So if Renegades win, yeah, I casted my vote for rival, but I'm not going to be too upset about it.
You are losing out on those viewer points, though, so you know, it is kind of a big deal when you boil it down to it. Yamoja and Uller banned away so far by Renegades. Fafnir and Camazot's Hercules joins the banned pool here in game number 1. A lot of supports taken off the board, and I think that's fair considering how impactful these two support players in particular have been so far here in Season 7. Both PBM and Jake have won games outright for their squads, and now Renegades have that first pick position open to them. With Uller banned away, Horus is the other support that I was going to say has been left open here. Feel like this is a pick that Jake has played pretty well, but this is one that I think is pretty abusable. We've seen Geb do well into it. Gods like Awilix can do very well, and Sam has played that god well so far this year. Horus is strong, and I think he's very worthy of a first pick, but it does not make a whole team comp.
It certainly doesn't, but when Jake's able to play it, he plays it a little bit differently than most of the other Horuses we see in the league. Renegades, not very often will they truly use that ultimate to try and sneak an objective. They might use it to try and separate the map and split push a Phoenix, but Jake's really known for getting in front of your face, stunning you out, finding these multi-man knockups, and consistently just looking to engage in actual 5-on-5 engagements, rather than using it to really maneuver around the map. Rival are going to go ahead and pick up Artio. That's going to be able to stop a lot of the aggression that Jake's going to bring. Can't dash in, can't find the dash out. If he moves up a little bit too far, it's going to be very easy for him to be caught. So the rest of the team might have to look for some more frontline.
Artio is rising in popularity right now, man. We hadn't seen Artio in a hot minute just a couple weeks ago, and all of a sudden she's top pick against certain gods in the meta right now. So certainly a god whose stock you need to keep an eye on. As Osiris and Chernobog are picked up. And I saw Zapman weigh in on Twitter right before this. Miff, are you a fan of BaRRaCCuDDa or BaRRaCCuDDa? Do you have a preference here for the god and player combo?
You know what? I think maybe we go back to the whiteboard and try and work out something better all across the board.
What? Those are both good.
BaRRaCCuDDa? Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
They're absolutely fire. As is the pick. It wasn't nearly as popular a couple weeks ago, almost a la Artio, as you pointed out. But now that we see that these games are able to go 30 minutes, 40 minutes, the meta is really shifting towards a real late-game-centric comp. Chernobog has one of the absolute best auto-attack stims in the game. He gets to that late-game point, he becomes an absolute Gatling gun to anyone that stands in front of him.
I suppose fineokay's cries for help, and please, guys, do not pick me Sobek for solo, are heard by Rival, because he was also open. That's a guy that gets banned a lot against this team. And now it gets banned in the second phase with this Olorun pickup there in the mid lane for CaptainTwig. And it does make some sense, because a lot of the gods that you would think are going to dive you, the soul laner, the support, neither Horus nor Osiris really handle Olorun all that well. Long duration CC immunity is really what you need to be able to take this guy down effectively.
Yeah, no one's going to be able to close the distance on this Olorun. Sanctified Field drops. Who's going to really do anything about it? Their dive is so centric on literally just being able to walk at the enemy. Olorun's going to be able to walk away or use his CC knock-up inside of his ultimate and make it even harder. Renegades in response pick up the Hun bots. I like that. It's very good. It's going to be able to separate the backline from Rival. Jing is going to have a hard time stacked up with that Olorun. So if Hun bots makes his way into the backline, it's going to be a huge disruption factor. But still, you can't rely solely on one character to deal with this Olorun. It's going to be on whether or not you can engage on him before he finds that field drop.
I really feel like Hunbats is exactly what I want to see when I'm playing Olorun. Overhand Smash already takes roughly a calendar year to go off. You slow down that animation by 30%, you're dead before that ability ever goes off. I feel like this Olorun pick got picked pretty early, and then Renegades really didn't do a whole lot to counteract it. I do like the Nuwa pick. Obviously, Sanctified Field doesn't matter against Fire Shards, but I feel like Rival came away with a very strong draft here.
Everything they want to counter out enemy picks is there. Artio is going to be able to make Horus's life, Chernobog's life, Hunbot's life a lot harder. Jing is going to be able to deal with early game ganks. Olorun's going to be that huge team fight determining factor. And Thanatos is going to be that bridge pick to make sure that your late game hyper carries get to there. He's going to be able to deal the pressure in the game. He's going to have that global presence so that Olorun and Jing are going to be able to free farm. I like Rival's draft a lot. If Renegades get off to a hot start, Rival doesn't have very many comeback mechanics though.
We'll see if the BaRRaCCuDDa can get the job done here in game number 1. Let's throw it down to Dave and Hindu Man for the cast.
Appreciate it, Aggro and Mifflin. It's been a week of upsets, hasn't it? Here, Hindu Man, where the teams that lose round 1 or week 1, week 2, whatever it's been, have kind of turned their favors around here moving forward. Rival finally beat United after that was the talking point for us early on. Now they go up against Renegades, a team they beat 2-0 the first time around with these two teams playing. And you look at the jungles, we've talked about how impactful it is. Talk about some of the most impactful junglers here. SoloOrTroll and LASBRA have a battle ahead.
Oh, really do. Especially when you look at these two junglers in terms of how the league's gone for them both this year. Both of them lead their teams in terms of kills. Like, that just shows you that they're really playing around their junglers through the early game and into that middle game, but still might find consistency to stay at the top end as the game goes on. So just keep an eye on how the battle goes, and obviously seeing Sam on the Thanatos again, we should see fireworks early.
Well, I think it was, Thanatos had a 5% pick rate in picks and bans just now. I'd wager that all 5% of those have been Sam up to this point, maybe with a one pick here or there outside of that. So I look for those two to maybe be the most pivotal here in this matchup. Now moving over here, though, to the long lane, Hindu, different picks maybe on one side, and maybe it's only a singular pick that kind of stands out to me, and it's PBM, and I think it was Mifflin that brought up PBM specifically as a player, and maybe not so much the Artio, but so impactful in this early game, even outside of Sam in this jungle, tied up there in First Bloods. What are some expectations maybe for PBM on the Artio?
Well, for PBM specifically, I mean, looking at his build so far and what he's gone for, it's Blink initiation possibility with the stun setup that's going to be there for them, because they are kind of linear, this rival squad that they've got here. If you think about the levels of engage they have, it's going to really depend on Artio getting up close and personal, crippling people, stunning people in place, or on the other side, it's going to be a Thanatos ulting out of the sky, looking to set things up. So most of the time, I'm expecting Rival to maybe sit back in the early game unless the situation presents itself, and allow Rival to get a bit aggressive. Sorry, allow Renegades to get aggressive early on and look to maybe counterplay that a little bit. However, if they do take the lead here, Rival, they're going to look for a nice, comfortable one to be able to establish themselves on the forefront to make the engages a little bit more simplistic for them. Because outside of that, hard engage is something they're really lacking a little bit for here.
And I agree with a lot of that. And you look back at their game against the United, it went all three. And it wasn't, I mean, Rival ended up winning, but it was just kind of this different vibe. And maybe it's because United have really had a resurgence here over the last few weeks. Looked great in that 3-game set, despite falling to Rival. But Rivals, I don't know if you could say their team fighting looked worse, anything like that, but it just seemed like a different team, a little bit slower maybe. And maybe that's a good thing here in this matchup. You think back to the first few weeks where SoloOrTroll is rotating over to this long lane, First Blood, immediately followed up by return ganks for Second Blood. It was kind of, it was situational. It was methodical is the word I'm looking for Rival, week after week after week. So now they're starting to maybe move their eyes towards different play styles and have a big chance and a big opponent to maybe change some of that up here against the Renegades.
And that kind of makes a lot of sense with what you're saying there too, right? I mean, they had a new juggler join the roster, sure, SoloOrTroll won Worlds, but he's still joining 4 new men around him. And then you think about Twig going towards the mid lane, but look at this on the right side.
That's right. Long lane gank, no, but short lane gank, maybe. That's the leap away from SOT to keep him alive. fineokay will beckon him in. Counter gank, though, potential. LASBRA and Awesome Jake rotating through back beneath the tier 1 tower. Goes Sam. Early rotations, though, from both supports out of that long lane.
Yeah, realistically, I think that was kind of a drop kill on SoloOrTroll, if I'm honest. I felt like they could have possibly found the kill onto SoloOrTroll. Difference was Sam was only level 4, and with that, without the ultimate available to chase him down, SoloOrTroll will get away pretty much scot-free, especially with the rotation coming out from Renegades there too. I like the idea of Rival, though. You know, like in that matchup, Osiris is going to be in the lane. He's going to be deep in, looking to consistently poke down this Baron in lane. So he's going to be stepped up. So having Thanatos rotate in early and look to pressure can just buy fineokay a little bit more time with this Baron to continue farming up to a much more safer, comfortable stage. Even though his matchup against, an Osiris isn't that bad for a Baron at all. If anything, it's pretty good.
Do you think that's a scenario then where fineokay, even just through the ebb and flow of that lane, can maybe do exactly what we just saw? Keep SOT in a position where he's more viable for a potential gank. Maybe just like what we're seeing on Awesome Jake here, who finds the knockup but will dash away. But look, SOT hasn't been able to go back, been stuck beneath this tier 1 tower line.
But he's going to sustain up. He's now out of potions, however, but this blue buff could be under pressure. And there's a big grouping going on as Jake's going to go in.
Well, fineokay has the life of the party up one more time, but SamForSoccer will dunk down to the tune of a double stun. A Fear No Evil will send a few members of Rival running, and SOT will pick up a kill on SamForSoccer as a result, but CaptainTwig will rotate over from mid and get a kill of his own. It's a 2-for-1 swing with Rival on top.
Bit strange for my liking to see Awesome Jake go in there for an engagement and Venenu's not going to rotate to that fight. Especially knowing that Twig got over there to that engagement on that right-hand side too. Ven was off doing his red buff. Now in that situation there, Renegades are looking to maybe, you know, punish them for stealing away the blue. But under the circumstances, I don't think that was the best call, honestly, for Renegades to look for that option. If Twig's going to get pressure in mid and Venenu's not going to rotate or call it out as effectively, or even rotate himself, then they need to just, you know, think of caution a little bit more there and not give as much away. I think LASBRA was a little bit delayed on the Fear No Evil as well. They just opened that window up for Rival to find 2 kills to 1.
Well, that's the small lead maybe that you wanted to see from Rival, that they've been able to cushion up just a little bit more. About 1,500, 1.2k gold lead already, 6 and some change minutes into the game. Early rotation from CaptainTwig, as we were just kind of talking about. On the flip side of that coin, though, we've brought up Venenu. And this new one will bring him up again after PandaCat will receive a gank here, and that's an airstrike defensively, so not much will come of it, but maybe return gank potential a little bit higher. Nuwa, it's seen such a resurgence in play here recently, and 50-some-odd thousand damage from Baskin earlier in the SEC finals. Is it a mid-lane pick that you're starting to wrap your mind around and you might agree with?
I mean, Dave, for me, she's always super safe in lane for the most part, right? She's very tricky to kill. The gods that you see in the mid lane, and I always kind of like refer to Zeros on this, because Zeros was someone that would always sit when he played in the SPL on these sort of defensive mid laners that could just position very well and stay relatively safe. Nuwa's one of them. Sol is another good option when she was meta in the mid lane once upon a time. Having good, clear escapes that buy time for your team to rotate in are always really solid options, and Nuwa does that. So it's all about, you know, keeping the pressure away from Thanatos dunks potentially. If you're going to see these potential aggressive junglers coming at you, having someone safe in that mid lane is good. I just feel like it takes a long time for it to really ramp up in terms of damage and make a huge impact. And it kind of presents a situation where you're relying on your team around you to get you through those early struggles.
Right, it sort of seemed like late game when Baskin in our earlier sets was really starting to chunk with some of those fire shards. I think Renegades have done a good job of kind of stemming the bleeding that we saw early on here as Rival found a successful gank over in the solo lane. That tier 1 tower, though, in the short lane here has already gotten chipped down quite a little bit. Interestingly enough to see, but that is a somewhat tough lane, as you pointed out, up against the Baron. Maybe this is a sort of scenario where SOT is really going to have a large impact once these full, clear, more clean teamfight rotations start for the solo laners.
Yeah, at this point in time, I mean, as Osiris in laning phase is there to bully, but when he gets against a god that is very good at nullifying that, or disrupting that flow, so to speak, Baron, with the Vivid Gaze, that first ability, really good at shutting down some of what you're going to see out of Osiris in lane in terms of bullying. Attack speed, debuffs, as well as decent range to keep him in some sustain in that lane. Really shuts down the bully option. But Thanatos being in the wings consistently has just made sure that SoloOrTroll's not playing further up where he wants to. However, when you said, like when you get to the teamfight stage, he's going to be great in these engagements, because if you look at Rival, they're all the backliners for the most part, like the likes of, well, you've got the Olorun in mid lane, you've got the Jing you've got the Baron. They're all going to be kind of positioned around each other, right? So those tethers that you can attach with an Osiris just reduces the amount of damage they're going to do as that CC continues to grow and eventually turn into a stun. So just keep an eye on where his target focus would be. I'd suggest it's towards CaptainTwig a little bit, because the ultimate can go up and over the big ultimate that Olorun's going to have, and maybe make a bit of an impact there. But we'll see. It's definitely a tricky task for a SoloOrTroll here, but he's got a lot of CC set up on the rest of his team.
And Breastplate of Valor for fineokay first overall, so maybe
Makes
aggravating matchup gets a little bit more aggravating for SOT. Give me some cooldown, some mana, a little HP, physical defense. Seems to make sense for Fino up against this Osiris.
Well, Venenu's sneaking through that fog, and that's one thing I've not touched on that new wall yet. That fog, just keep an eye on how people use it.
Sam will blink forward. Venenu will turn around some damage. Fire shards ring down, won't execute Sam this time. But that's a sanctified field that drapes over, and PandaCat will snag a couple. LASBRA returns, though. Fear No Evil will pull back 1 kill in this fight. It's another 2-for-1 as we stand. CaptainTwig and PandaCat still on chase. BaRRaCCuDDa will try to dash through, but an airstrike, it'll close that gap, and PBM will find the stun. PandaCat with a killing spree. All 3 kills in this engagement.
That was such a weird little engagement, Dave, too, because this could even be a goal fury of this. I mean, LASBRA's not got his ult up, and I know he's the only one in the area here. But that little engagement was really cool, because Venenu's like doing the buff, drops in the fog and goes, huh, I don't think that Thanatos knows I'm here. Maybe I'll get cheekily aggressive. And Sam read the situation and goes, huh, look at this new ward thinking she's cool. Blinks on him, starts a fight when the whole of Rival turn up. And Renegade's like, wait, what? I thought we were the ones ganking then. And in the end, Rival just like collapsed beautifully from all lanes. And Renegades are in tatters. Great little play from Renegades, sorry, from Rival, honestly.
And you can get the vibe already of what Rival are looking to do. Renegades playing maybe a little bit more reactionary. It's been kind of the counter gank, the second engagement right after the first from the Renegades that have bought them both of the kills in this game. One over to SOT in the short lane and then one from LASBRA just now. It feels like 11 or so minutes into this game. It's Rival that have kind of set forth, played a little bit more aggressively and found some fights that they're happy with.
Yeah, and I think that one of the reasons that is the Thanatos in the jungle definitely like speeds up the pace of the game a little bit in terms of the early game of aggression. But when we get to that mid game, Dave, if they've not got a really comfortable lead, and I'm talking like 4 to 8k in terms of a comfortable lead for Rival, they are going to struggle a little bit in team fights if Renegades like start to pick them apart. But Renegades getting on the aggressive here, looking at this.
Watch out, Sam. A couple members of the Renegades about to be behind you, and Sam for Soccer cannot take to the skies. That's the aggressive play you want to see from a Horus, and Awesome Jake can certainly do that. Right as we mentioned that Rival are trying to start the fights, it's Renegades instead that are taking the fight to the enemy team. Good stun down from PBM and an airstrike from PandaCat will disengage himself from this fight. PBM will be able to escape as well, and there's a couple low health members of the Renegades, as a couple members from Rival now are starting to rotate back through. PBM blinks forward, and Jake will be able to dash away.
Yeah, Twig still chasing through the jungle here as well, looking for scraps potentially. Red buff is open. Twig could look for an invade here with Mike in response, but it looks like Rival will get that just in time. However, Twig's still looking for more here, not so sure about that one. What you saw there, though, was Renegades trying to make a play mid lane, which I think was beautiful. Like, it was a great call from Jake, using this Horus ultimate that people are underestimating and using it for more, like, repositions more than anything else. That gank in mid, perfect pressure, and the continued chase, though, onto PolarBearMike is where I felt Renegades went wrong. They wanted more, you know? They found a kill, they wanted to continue that, exacerbate the issue by finding another one on Mike, and in the end, it kind of just relieved all the pressure they got from that one pick. They could have looked for pressure on mid, they could have looked to gank a different lane as well, but by chasing Mike, it allowed Rival to kind of like get themselves back on an even page and fall back to safety.
And you can now see the kind of the play style as well that Rival are looking for, this 3-man rotation. Sam for Soccer, 4 out of the 5 kills assisted. CaptainTwig has participated in all 5. PBM has also participated in all 5 kills up to this point. This 3-man roam has seemed to work out for Rival. Now CaptainTwig may be realizing he's going to be under the eye a little bit more here from the Renegades. Actually has gone Relic Dagger here for his second fully completed item, and with Aegis and Beads, he's going to want to be safe as much as possible.
Yeah, the Relic Dagger is definitely an interesting choice, and I think I've only really seen Twig do this so far, I want to say, when he's been playing the Olorun, not on anything else. So I think he realizes that the Relics being up a little bit more often on Olorun is going to allow him to survive a lot longer inside of his ultimate too, because he doesn't have much of escape. You know, he's got a cheeky little knockback, and that's about it. It's not going to change the course of the world at all. But if he can have his Aegis and Beads up a little bit more often, especially against the likes of a Fear No Evil that's always going to connect with you, then you've got an opportunity there to have it up more often in terms of the Relic of Beads to make sure you can survive a little bit longer. Also, there's other little factors in it too. There's movement speed in this item. There's also a little bit of cooldown and health. Like, it's a good all-round item in terms of utility for the most part. Cooldown, movement speed, and health, not a bad item at all. And cost efficient.
Yeah, you're not trading out all that much, or really anything at all. Maybe a slight delay on that ring build coming online. It's Oracles now that will be scrapped over, and it looks like the teams are able to at least split that one. You mentioned a Gold Fury a few moments ago, and that was minutes in the past, but back on cooldown for the next 45 seconds or so. The metric was sort of set around 3, 4, 5k gold lead. Rival could extend that a little bit further, as BaRRaCCuDDa will be stunned down by PBM. Fire Shards will plug just a touch of damage on the aggressing Team Rival members in the long lane, and not much will come of it underneath the Tier 1 tower.
Yeah, those beads getting burned on BaRRa, though, pretty important, honestly, and this is what you're kind of seeing out of PolarBearMike here uses his blink to initiate that, cripples them up, doesn't allow them to escape. BaRRA forced to beads as PandaCat was chasing in. And you even got the ultimate out of Venenu there in that little engagement on BaRRaCCuDDa there. That Venenu, it doesn't really do much. If anything, it kind of makes Rival think for a second on the gank of like, wait, are we getting rotated on here? But it also gives the vision to the rest of the team if Thanatos is around, if this Olorun's going to be making a rotation too. So just getting eyes on. It's a small win there for Rival. They got a lot out of a blink initiation out of PolarBearMike there.
Yeah, no kills, but the intangibles, or at least UI may be more tangible. Certainly important for Rival. Stone of Binding as well. Locked in for Mike, and for good reason. You mentioned the aggressive frontline engages, stun him up as quickly as possible. Stone of Binding will shred some of those pesky prots, keeping the Renegades guys alive.
That's the key then. The most awkward thing about Stone of Binding, the cost point, beautiful. The stats, pretty solid. Only problem is, it's just trying to fit it into a build as a Guardian sometimes. It can get kind of tricky, you know? Because you do want health in the early game as a support to survive some of these engagements. But these prots that you get out of it are really solid for the most part to just support a little bit more. The passive, though, is where it's all at. What it's going to bring to these engagements time and time again, just reducing how much damage, sorry, increasing the amount of damage your carries are going to do to this target is so worthwhile. And when you think about the cripple field Artio has, that's going to be applying throughout the entire fight of anyone around Artio.
Yeah, works in spades there for Rival. There was slight positioning around the Fury just a moment ago. Potential return gank onto BaRRaCCuDDa. The beads are down for another 45 or so seconds. fineokay just getting his TP back. We'll use it to rejoin the fight here in mid. So it looks like Rival are going to use that teleport aggressively, rotate over towards this Fury. SOT has teleport as well. He will TP to the mid lane. Oni Fury down to half HP, Sanctified Field just to keep the Renegades at bay, and not much of an attempt to steal it all.
I mean, it's kind of hard to steal that, but here's a re-engage coming in from Jing Control. We're going to go in deep looking for Twig. Around the corner comes LASBRA.
And that's a Fear No Evil to start off the fight for the Renegades. Down comes Sam. 4 members of the Renegades all grouped up. It's SOT leaping onto 3 members of Rival who are now beneath their tier 2 tower. Couple ultimates available. The airstrike could re-engage on this fight if PandaCat chooses to. SoloOrTroll playing around the side. You lost CaptainTwig, but you have locked down the Fury. Can you defend this tier 1 tower is now a big point to look at.
Yeah, it could have been, but I think with Rival being there, Dave, that's exactly why you see Renegades ignore that tier 1 and go, okay, I guess we go for the Pyromancer instead. Every single fight you see, when a team loses an objective, they're looking to make amends almost immediately. One of the ways of doing that is finding a couple of picks, they find that one on Twig, and convert it into a Pyromancer. It's not as good as a Fury at that stage, in my opinion, but at least it's something to answer back. The danger always is, though, when you're trying to make amends and answer back, you get yourself in a worse spot on trying to defend.
Well, the amends now turn into a second team fight in the last couple of minutes. BaRRaCCuDDa rooted down will be able to escape alive. The follow-up rotation not quite there from the Renegades. Only 3 members, but fineokay is going to try to pull SOT right back in. That's the stun. But SOT will toss out some of those tethers of his own, and awesome Jake will now blank forward. SoloOrTroll was the target there, and that's a defensive use of the Thanatos ultimate. He'll swing down, and somehow no kills on the board.
Yeah, good call from Sam, honestly, to ult exactly when he did there. But SoloOrTroll for just standing there and realizing, wait a second, I'm Osiris. It's really hard to kill me with these characters around me. And I've tethered all 3 of you. And that was the power of the tether coming into play there, because they were all swinging away at the Osiris, but not a whole lot of health really disappeared from that bar that SoloOrTroll had there. So I like the situation. It's got scrappy, though, here, Dave, so far. And that really happened from that Oni Fury the Rival just picked up more than anything else. Because as soon as the Oni Fury goes down, Renegade's trying to go for the Pyro to answer back. But in doing so, those Oni minions that spawn from the wave end up taking down that weakened tier 1 tower that you mentioned in the laning phase that, you know, SoloOrTroll had the issue with in that early stage.
Knocked down half HP on the other 2 tier 1 towers as well. So while the gold lead has certainly diminished here for Rival, the map presence is absolutely there to maybe start to make a difference as far as pulling some of that lead back goes. Have you seen what you've wanted to, though, from the Renegades and kind of counteracting some of what Rival has been trying to do? Do you think they've mitigated this lead well enough 20 minutes in?
It's funny because I feel with the compositions like that both teams drafted here, right, it sense to me that Renegades might just, they'll wait to get around Thanatos, right, and then look to group up and make some decent engages. And they've kind of done that with Jake so far. I think the one thing that Renegades need to realize going into like the middle of the game now and towards the later stages is that Rival are going to counter-initiate whenever Renegades do. So the windows that Renegades choose to engage on have to be really solid, otherwise Rival are going to be looking to punish. Now if Rival get frustrated by having to wait for Renegades to engage, that's where we can see fireworks start to fly everywhere and the game opens up either or for my liking. So it's really, both teams can play to their strengths in this mid-game point. I don't think Renegades are too far behind at this stage, though where Rival are running away with this one. It's only a 2k lead. Like I said, I was hoping for 4 to 8k is kind of the margin I was hoping for here for their engages, but I'm still concerned a little bit with Rival's team fights in terms of engagement. They're relying a lot on some really hard to initiate CCs for my liking.
Yeah, it's been a lot of PBM maybe sprinting through fineokay, trying to pull in some priority targets and mixed outcomes maybe up to this point. A lot of 2v1 fights, Renegades have been able to pull some kills back.
And the danger of that, Dave, is that, you know, the Rival composition here, like, sure, it can work of, like, just running at them, but look at the gods they've got, right? You've got this new war. Oh, no, they're running at me? Better press 4 because that's skillful and like remove myself from the map. And then the same could be said for BaRRaCCuDDa. Oh no, they're running at me. Better press 4 and I'll sit in the air for a while. Hey guys, there's a gank going on over here. Oh, that's the end of the gank because that was the only initiation. So Rival really have to pick their moments well and try and abuse it if they want to get aggressive.
Great point. It's been a lot of these kind of one-off side engagements, even the big team fights, maybe only 1 or 2 that we've seen, have only resulted in a kill or 2. CaptainTwig has started to maybe hit some of those ring power spikes as well, so you know, maybe one of the beneficiaries of a bit of a lull here. He's been able to farm up, build into some of those rings, and this Olorun is starting to get to a point. 1-1 and 4, but it's going to start swinging plenty here about 22 minutes in.
Completely agree, and I feel that's one of the things about going for this Relic Dagger that a lot of players will look at and be like, wait a second guys, like, Olorun's not doing damage. Well, like, there's one thing in all video games that's there that has damage-orientated things. You don't do damage when you're dead. So having some survivability can be helpful, but it does come at a deficit to the amount of damage output you can do in the early stages. So the fact that, you know, Rival are still in this and ahead at the moment and getting a free Fury there on the left-hand side yet again, it's giving Twig time to get his items online to get to those power spikes to still make that impact. And Telekine's now finished. It means he's going to be swinging a little bit harder once more.
I suppose Scylla's the only god in the game that can... someone's certainly escaping me, but new Scylla can maybe do damage while she's dead, executing the crush, but she's not in this game.
Want to keep poking the bear on it. There's loads of gods that do. I mean, Persephone, she can do damage when she's dead, right?
Oh, right, of course. That's her whole deal.
It's a whole gimmick.
Here's me,
no,
like,
it's not. It's
here's me, right? The one thing that jumps to my mind, and then all the other more obvious options are just sitting right there, but none of them in the game.
Hey,
so
it shows you know what you're talking about, you know? When you go that deep, that's what you're talking about there.
Right, and that's exactly what I'm going for there.
I know it is. I know for sure. The one thing I'm noticing so far, though, Dave, is that Rival are getting to the punch a little bit quicker on the objectives already. 3 Furies in a row where 2 of them were pretty much, hey, let's just walk up and do it, because Renegades aren't here and around or notice what's going on in time. I mean, you look at Renegades' composition, they are really good at defending objectives with this comp they have, especially with the likes that Jake can ult on in there and bring the team with him. I just think Renegades have kind of been caught sleeping a little bit in terms of the ward battles and noticing where the rotations have been coming so far.
Well, a couple members of the Renegades are sweeping back in base, and it's only BaRRaCCuDDa that could have joined that fight for the Pyromancer, and Rival will knock it down with little or no pushback here. So the gold lead now extends to about 3,500 in favor of Team Rival, hovering right around that 3-4K mark. Scaling continues, though, here for Rival. Do you imagine, I mean, it's early maybe to just start a completely contested Fire Giant. Maybe look for a pick on somebody on the Renegades, get something started.
I mean, Dave, you said a completely contested Fire Giant. I've not seen Renegades contest an objective yet, so I think Rival should just potentially walk up and go, hey, I wonder if they do this again around the FG, because Renegades haven't shown that yet. However, LASBRA just cut Sam.
Oh my goodness, and that's the Fear No Evil for the complete one-shot of Sam for Soccer. Maybe didn't realize LASBRA was hanging or thought that he was able to get back to base quicker then the engagement would have started. Small advantage here for the Renegades. Rival fighting 4v5 disadvantage. LASBRA, though, still over by that purple buff, as PandaCat will soon find out. So maybe not a huge potential for a Fire Giant start, but a big potential for a fight start instead. PBM will stun down SOT as Jake had found a nice double stun on the engagement. But I think this is well played from Rival. We're at a disadvantage on this side of the map. Let's try to disengage as well as we can.
Completely agree, and look at how Renegade's trying to abuse that side. It's really good little pickup from LASBRA, honestly, getting Sam there. Not only did he get the kill, but he nearly got the ultimate off as well, which would have been down, but the beads most importantly. He keeps Sam on the defensive a little bit more in these engages, but look at this pull!
That's what fineokay will do to you, and Awesome Jake learns the hard way. SoloOrTroll just now back from base, so he'll be rejoining the fight in a moment. But CaptainTwig is starting to swing some serious crits into the back line of the Renegades. A Sanctified Field catches out 3, and that's an airstrike from PandaCat to land in the back line. Venenu is just going to have to sidestep this one. LASBRA does not have that Fear No Evil. Venenu's going to get executed by SoloOrTroll, and the delay works out. Deicide 25 minutes in for Team Rival.
Yeah, and I was kind of saying about Rival's composition not being great in engagements, but if fineokay is just going to raw pull someone with a coffin, or should I say 3 members in that narrow choke point to the north, Renegades can't be caught like that. So, you know, obviously Awesome Jake getting pulled in straight away. Great awareness of fineokay, recognizing that Jake had abilities down there to even recognize he could go for that play. But pulling in multiple people overall, that just can't happen. Renegades need to realize that Rival's windows are really small, but the chase after that from Rival was beautiful, you know? Twig's use of the ultimate just secured the extra couple of kills that ends up being a pretty much deicide situation that now results in an FG and 2 towers down mid. Let's take one to the right-hand side too, why don't we? Great. This is a huge spike in gold off that one engagement.
Massive.
Huge.
Massive. Call it 11,000 or so here. And we were talking about how it was hovering around 4K a few moments ago. So, yeah, right around that 11,000 mark here for Team Rival. Biggest swing in the game, absolutely by far. Both graphs will tell you that story. So now it's the map for the taking. It's open Phoenix in the short lane for Team Rival. Open Phoenix now in the mid lane. Maybe you turn your attention to the long lane. There's a half-health tier 1 tower. I mean, this 11k gold lead still has a couple towers to continue to spike, and then there's going to be a Fury up in just a second.
Yeah, level-wise, everyone's kind of even, so it's not really about experience at this point. It's more like just get a few more scraps of gold, finish a couple of items. But you can already see most people are at 6 stacks already, at least on Rival's side here. But Primal Furies, you know, still a decent enough Fury to get in case we need another FG. What I want to see out of Rival, though, take the tier 1, tier 2, and that's when we start to talk about Phoenix defense a little bit from Renegades here. And the composition Renegades have on defense isn't terrible, if I'm honest. They have a pretty good ability with like the likes of Chernobog, but realistically, it's more to do with this new war that's very good at frustrating teams. So Rival might have to split the difference here, I want to say. Split the map up, maybe a 4-1 or a 2-3 situation in terms of splitting this up a little bit to make sure that Renegades don't have their whole squad there. Pressure multiple lanes, because outside of that, Rival have really just got to dive on in, looking to force a commit. However, looking at the state of the map right now, Renegades were a little bit late on coming back to defend this. It doesn't look like Rival are going to push just yet.
Yeah, they were pushing down that tier 2 tower in the short lane, so maybe delayed, but if nothing else, are going to get themselves a little bit of that gold back. And actually going to push fineokay off to the side. Does have upgraded teleport, so one of those plethora of wards right around this long lane Phoenix will be available for fineokay to join the fight whenever he sees fit. It is SoloOrTroll in the mid lane, 4 members of Team Rival over underneath the left side Phoenix, and it's SOT who's stunned down and nearly deleted, but a Fear No Evil in the back line will try to buy some time for the Renegades, and LASBRA's found the first kill. Hovering death,
good defense.
Looking for a target, and BaRRaCCuDDa is the one. Awesome Jake with the kill onto PBM, but BaRRaCCuDDa into the wall, survives. SoloOrTroll, though, will make reparations for just a moment ago and grab the kill. It's a double for Thanatos. Awesome Jake against the world. Hindu man, that could just be the game.
I might just be, Dave, and honestly, like, for a minute, I thought Renegades were going to do it. That defense was solid. They just overcommitted a little bit, and now it's on Jake on defense on his own.
Down he comes from the skies, but it looks like Rival, they're just going to ignore this poor Horus. Titan is half HP. Awesome Jake is getting burnt down, but he doesn't have much of a chance in the world. The Deicide finally rolls through, and Team Rival take game number 1 in 30 minutes.
Super quick ending there, honestly, Dave. I was a bit surprised by it. I think on that engagement on the Phoenix Renegades did a really good job on initial entry of exactly what was going wrong and like dissolving the situation. But I think they got so overconfident with how well it was going, they were trying to commit too much. That's when Sam turns up. Chernobog goes a little bit too deep for my liking. I think SoloOrTroll could have ulted a little bit earlier to reduce some of the damage he took. But overall, I think Rival played that game relatively well. I was talking about defense and the way Rival are going to engage. It really was just a blink from Artio, and that was good enough.
Yeah, it was that early in the laning phase and then that from PVM at the end of the game, and that seals up game number 1 for Team Rival. Small lead becomes a little bit bigger and ends up with the Titan falling. Game 1 is in the books. How are you guys feeling on the desk?
It's me. There we go. I thought that you guys just wanted to hear me or look at me moving my mouth without actually hearing anything. At least that's what I get from chat the majority of the time. Mifflin, what I was saying was that if you blinked, you might have missed what happened in this game. It was even, and it was over. It really went in the blink of an eye.
One fight around the Fire Giant completely blows up that game out of the water. And literally 24 minutes in, there was no differentiating factor between both squads. However, Rival is going to be the beneficiary of that. They have the late game draft. Olorun was left completely uncontested. No one stopped or slowed him down, even in the slightest. Twig hits level 20 without a single bump into the road, and from there, you drafted for the late game, you got there scot-free. Yeah, we'll win a fight around the Fire Giant, and off the tail end of that, immediately the game.
It really went from 0 to 100 real quick here for Team Rival, and they're able to find that game 1 victory. Really feels like this Olorun pick, we were worried about what was going to happen with it in picks and bans if Renegades had bought enough dive in that draft in order to get on top of him, and it just worked out. They did not. Those Sanctified Fields were devastating basically every time they came down.
We can't take away from PandaCat either, being able to just find 5 kills, 0 deaths, 7 assists on the ADC role. That's wild. That is going to be born from the fact that Jing is a little bit safer, and despite that, Renegades have plenty of dive. They've got SOT on the Osiris, they had the Hun bots, they had Horus, but the damage output just wasn't quite there to finish off the kills in a consistent manner. Rival really do just scot-free run away with it. Not much to say about it, truly. 24 minutes, a completely even match, into 3 minutes to win the game.
So now Renegades have got to find a way to not let the game stall out to that point? Or excuse me, when you just lose one fight like this, is it more of a, if that fight just goes our way, then we win after that 24-minute, more or less stalemate? Rival did have the slight lead, but whoever won that team fight around Fire Giant was winning that game.
I do think so, but Renegades don't draft nearly as much late game pressure. If you want to win out in the early, if you want to play for the mid game, at least draft for it or match the late game pressure for the enemy team. Once that game started and Renegades decided to just play it a little bit lax in the early game, not really trying to force any sort of engagements, especially considering Olorun in mid is completely immobile, that's a bit of a misplay in of itself. Rival, not really known for their late game play. Maybe Renegades just weren't prepped for this type of play style from them.
Man, just a perfect team fight there from Rival that we just watched on that replay. A huge Baron ult, a huge Sanctified Field after the fact. And then on this, the Phoenix defense, it starts going okay until Sam4Soccer reinitiates, blinks in, insta-kills one, gets a full heal and a blood shield on top of that, and snowballs the fight pretty effectively for Rival onto the Titan. I mean, I don't think that Renegades should drastically change the way they played that game or even the way they drafted. I just think that if they're going to pick the Olorun, you've got to have a better answer to it than what they had in game number 1.
Something like a Pele, something that could dive in very easily, something with CC immunity, maybe even a Vamana out of the solo lane. Olorun is so strong when left just completely alone in the backline, and that's exactly what happened. The only mage of the game that can crit, and he was able to just auto-attack for free for the most part. Sanctified Field was a no-play zone, and Renegades didn't play in it. That's a rough one. One fight is all it took for that game to completely turn on its head. If I'm Renegades, I'm not feeling too terribly awful about it. Maybe you shift up the draft a little bit or decide that you want to play a little bit more aggressively in the early game. There are plenty of ways that they could have won that, and I'm sure that they know that as well.
I mean, they had Sam behind early on. He was 0-3, in that early game on the Thanatos, which is usually when Thanatos is going to be doing the majority of his good work. So clearly some things did go well for Renegades that time around. We'll see if they can find a better way to do it in picks and bans for game number 2 and the execution of game number 2. Now they're in that first pick position once again. The Horus first pick for Jake, I think, did work out pretty well, but the counter matchup of the Artio on the other side, PBM had a phenomenal game on that Artio.
Yeah, me and Finch were talking about it, and if you want anything from a god in your support role, Artio's got it, the jack of all trades. Worst case scenario, you get just a slow, but that will turn into a root. She's got stun, she's got an unreasonably long cripple, she's got damage mitigation in the kit. It's honestly very surprising to me that we haven't seen more of her in the past, and this slight resurgence might be a direct response to that. People are starting to remember, you know, Artio, pretty strong pickup.
Certainly not a bad one if you want a cripple or a ranged root or a little bit of healing in combat or yeah, just about anything at all you want out of your support. Artio can bring it for sure, and with all the dashes that are prevalent right now in the competitive meta, that long cripple certainly doesn't hurt. No ban for her quite yet, but Renegades sticking to the Uller, Hercules, and Yamoja bans, Fafnir and Camazotz as well, here by Team Rival. And now you're looking at the same exact ban there from Rival for that Raijin. So Horus was first pick last time. I think if I'm Renegades, I'm going back to it.
No reason not to. Jake's not the reason you lost that game. He found some fantastic re-engages by repositioning his team, but as we say that, casters curse ourselves a little bit. Jingwei gonna get picked up. I like it. It's safe. If you have to pick your hunter first, there's no real wrong option in Jingwei. She's gonna be able to just completely farm out the lane. If you do want to draft some aggression, she's got Chain CC in the knockup, but you're gonna leave Horus open for the other side and a secondary fantastic pick.
I mean, Mike was already so impactful on the Artio. Do you really want to give him the Horus? But Jake's has, you know, an endless supply of weird support picks that he can always pull out at any given time. So we'll see if he wants to go with one of them. As Thor was left open, and this time it gets picked here by Rival. Sam has looked like one of the best Thors in the league as of late. Feel like this is a pretty scary top 2 to give over to Rival in Horus and Thor.
It's pretty funny, Renegades hovering over this Artio. They find out, well, maybe that's pretty good into Horus itself, so we'll take it. Instead, Erlang Shen. I do like the Thor. Sam's one of the best people to leverage that global ultimate or semi-global with Thor, as he's not going to be able to travel nearly as far as some of the others. But he's been able to just have global map pressure. Anywhere he goes, you have to be worried that Anvil of Dawn is just going to dunk you down. It's a constant state of cognizance you're gonna have to have on the side of Renegades of, if we look for this engagement, there's about a 60% chance we're gonna get Thor dunked, and that global pressure means that he can farm up a little bit more, just play safely in his own jungle, and he's gonna have pressure on the map regardless of whether or not he actually even decides to gank.
Wow, with a lot of top tier mages open, I mean Merlin, Discordia, and Ra all open. Venenu goes with the Cuckoo Khan. Is this a favorite of his? He played it a ton last year on Splice, played it at least once so far this year. I get wanting to go with a setup with a big mage ultimate off of this Erlang setup, but why Cuckoo Khan instead of something like the Ra, which we've seen a lot more of recently?
I'm not a huge fan of it myself. You can use the tornadoes if you're worried about getting sieged out. It's going to have fantastic objective confirm, but by that same note, as you said, Ra's going to bring that passive power to his team fights. He's going to be able to help out with burning objectives a little bit more. The ultimate does not quite as much damage, but similar. Kukulkan going to be the target of dives as well. If Erlang Shen is going to be diving the enemy backline, who's defending your Kukulkan? It's not Jingwei. It's going to be completely alone, and when Thor's on the enemy team, this immobile, no jump, no dash mage in Kukulkan, that's a free target.
Wow, PandaCat gets to, what, 7th pick, one of his signature gods that he's always had over there in that long lane in the Ho Yi because of this Cupid ban, which does make some sense. So it really shuts down Erlang effectively. But, man, to give PandaCat Ho Yi in that slot, probably not something Renegades really wanted to do necessarily. As Naja, another big setup god. I think there's going to be actually Erlang jungle Naja support would be my guess here, Mifflin. It just feels like that fits the playstyle for Renegades a little bit more here.
Does Susano change your mind about that even a little bit?
Oh yeah, it does. Yeah, it definitely does. Yeah, I looked away and I couldn't tell what that sound cue was. Yeah, so now, okay. Wait, no, that doesn't work. Erlang solo is what I'm guessing. I really think
Erlong
this
solo,
Naja's for Jake.
Susano jungle. Yeah,
Yeah,
Naja
I
and
really
Jake,
think
I'll
the
take that
Naja's
for sure.
Jake. Okay.
I mean,
you're
Jake's
agreeing
one to
with me
pull out
there?
the weird picks. Yep, I take that every single day of the week. You have the setup for the Kukulkan. You're going to have the ability to fight in the lane despite Jingwei being a little bit more passive. I like the Naja here. This Erlang solo, though, how's that matchup going to look against Kukulkan, or Kukulkan, rather? That fight is going to be pretty weak. Kukulkan's going to have some anti-heal to deal with that Berserker shield that's likely to come out. I'm not certain that I am super in love with Renegade's draft here.
Naja solo also somewhat popular, usually down a little bit lower in the minor league level, but can work right here. The difference between Kukulkan and Kukulkan will be critical for Dolson on game number 2's cast.
Hey, and here's the good news for you and I, Hindu. Both Mifflin and Aggro were wrong on all of their guesses. It's SOT on Susano in this solo, and I don't think that was one of their guesses.
Dave, they're both analysts. Like, they do that full time. When are they ever right, Dave? I mean, you know this, you know? You're preaching to the choir here, friend. But we both know. Yeah. Of course it's going to be Susano. No, realistically, going to the picks and bans real quick, Dave, right? I like the idea of Renegades are going for here, unless Jake dies at level 1, as I'm watching the fight straight away. But I will say that putting Susano in the lane against Kukulkan makes a lot of sense, just based off what the desk was just talking about there. Erlang into that doesn't make much sense, and because obviously Erlang has not a very effective match against the Kukulkan in my eyes, but the Susano has the ability to do what we just saw there, dip in, dip out, and use the mobility to stay away of this Kukulkan, who needs to kind of commit a little bit more. So just watch out for SoloOrTroll having to be careful of Thor ganks more than anything else.
Awesome. Jake is one auto attack away from dead, and PBM adds one to his first blood tally. BaRRaCCuDDa
he does.
is going to try to make his way out. Has the bead, so nothing will result of this one here for Barra. You called it 30 seconds ago. You said, I don't like Awesome Jake standing here, and then he stood there and rival grabbed first blood.
He did. I don't think it's just the weakness in the early game of Naja. The ring toss is great for wave clear, but until he hits like level 2, level 3, he really takes a little bit longer to get online and make a bit more of an impact in terms of aggression, especially alongside a Jingwei too. I think the biggest key is a Horus in the laning phase. A stun into a protection shred. You're not going to live very long, my friend, and that's what's brought LASBRA over here now.
LASBRA needs to assist his long lane a little bit, and it's PandaCat who's immediately traded out. Awesome Jake hears us and corrects his past mistakes, and will move through both of the supports on the board with early kills.
Look at that as well. Venenu was over there too. He'd actually stayed all the way from mid lane after getting a bit of pressure early on, which is to be expected on Kukulkan. You can just clear the wave and walk away for the most part. He's giving up the next wave though towards the tower, so losing a bit of pressure there. But this composition, I really like what the desk was talking about here, Dave. The comp that Renegades are running here really is SoloOrTroll, LASBRA, and Awesome Jake are going to go all in all the time. And it's going to leave Venenu and BaRRaCCuDDa on their own on the backside. And it's really going to be a case for those two to an extent self-survive. Now Jingwei, great at it, but they still want to try and make an impact in the fight. And I think that's why we see the Kukulkan a little bit more. Sorry, the Kukulkan. I got it wrong already. But yeah, the Kukulkan.
Yeah, this is gonna
the long-range ultimate, yeah? Like that being able to be fired off from a long distance means he can still impact the front line when they dive in very deep. And the biggest man that's got the biggest issue on Rival to deal with all this is going to be Discordia, because all these characters are going to make it a very difficult game for Twig. So keep an eye on Twig and how long he can survive in these engagements, because that's going to be huge.
Well, it's just a small side moment just a moment ago where SOT, it's really so similar to, I think, what we saw in Game 1. Different matchup, but fineokay has SOT completely pushed back. It was Baron versus Osiris in Game 1, but now SOT is having a bit of a tough time at least maintaining this wave pressure that allowed SamForSoccer to rotate through, steal away that blue buff. So, you know, no kills, no counter ganks just yet over to that solo lane, but you can maybe see a small advantage starting to get pulled.
Yeah, I don't think I would. I don't want to see any ganks towards Renegades, I feel like, with how this one's going. This part, I think it's a real issue between the two. Yeah, I think there's a real issue between the two, honestly, of like, you've got a Susano in lane that's not going to pressure early. His wave clear's a little bit susceptible. You're dealing with a Kukulkan anyway. Don't gank him. Let SoloOrTroll hold the pace of the lane. Let him freeze under his tower, play defensive. You're going to lose blue buffs here, that's fine, but you're not looking for that. You're looking to make side grades and upgrades elsewhere on the map through LASBRA and through Awesome Jing. SoloOrTroll will come to the fray later on, and his prime target will be getting to PandaCat and getting to CaptainTwig with this Susano that should get a little bit more farm by staying in the laning phase.
I don't know. I feel like I'm so interested in seeing what direction SOT takes this Susano in the solo lane. I mean, I guess with LASBRA being that warrior in the jungle, maybe that opens up SOT to build more down that direct damage, assassin-y type build that we're used to seeing out of him in the jungle, where LASBRA might build some more of that solo lane typical bruisery tanky type build.
It's kind of an option of, like, they could all go for hybrid builds a little bit, right? Like, maybe Awesome Jake leans a little bit more on the defensive side more than anything else. Whereas LASBRA and SoloOrTroll both go for hybrids where there's a decent amount of damage, but there's also survivability. That's a decent trade, actually, in that lane.
That's a one-for-one trade. Both the junglers were just watching from the sidelines. fineokay and SOT will trade out with one another, and it's fineokay who ends up being executed by the tower. You seem to be okay with that trade, though, Hindu.
At first I was, right? But then I look at the relic situation, I look at the whole minion wave that went into the tower that SoloOrTroll lost there. So fineokay actually dying there definitely benefits Rival a hell of a lot more than I first thought. Because teleport not being up means that SoloOrTroll can't just walk back to lane straight away. But at the same time, SoloOrTroll lost a whole wave of experience towards the tower, and he lost the experience from his own blue buff yet again. So it works out a lot better for Rival, funny enough, especially when I've not even spoke just yet, and the fact that we do see that fineokay went for beads this game as he's starting relic and not TP. Uh-oh.
Sam, Anvil of Dawn, maybe looking for a pick down onto LASBRA. Will the 9 turns blessing make a difference? It does slow down Sam, but that's a 1-level difference here in the jungle. PBM is here to play as well. They've walled themselves off, and they're not able to make it back to LASBRA, who's half HP. Awesome Jake does not have enough mana maybe to escape this one to the skies, and down he comes. But PBM won't participate. Sam for Soccer doesn't get the kill on the LASBRA, but does end up finishing off the Renegade support.
It was kind of a cool engage there, because LASBRA's like, yo, I just spot Thor ulting. Lol, what a waste of an ult. And LASBRA went, oh wait, he's going on me. That's not good news at all. fineokay, meanwhile, trying to bully this lane.
How many times have we seen this? Over and over and over again. Well, I guess twice now. fineokay underneath the tier 1 tower, pops the ultimate, and the ultimate, the rage form, is enough to keep him alive. This time, it's not often we see these solo kills happening in the solo lane, but you get a couple, and now you might need to be wary. Right.
Yeah, dude, you put an assassin in that lane up against a warrior like that, like, you're going to have to play it relatively safe. But also being behind is going to cause some problems even more. So fineokay really abusing the situation well for Rival in that solo lane. But going back to that little skirmish again in that gank, you mentioned Awesome Jake. He can't get out of there because of lack of mana. You were bang on with that, by the way. The one reason that you normally, when you see these like Naja supports, you have to be so careful about the amount of abilities you use, because his mana costs in the early game aren't necessarily cheap. And if he doesn't go for the Talon boots, which gives you that passive MP5, and with the changes towards how Guardian's Blessings work, you're not going to get as much mana regen. Mana regen in the Guardian role is one of the sleeper stats if you're going to use your abilities a lot, or you're going to have to get better about how much you use in terms of abilities to make sure you've got the mana up. So Jake going in there, he looked for a sash. When that sash was used, that was all his mana, and then he's just a sitting duck with a spear in his hand.
It's been a tough start for Awesome Jake. He gets immediately dove for first blood, does end up trading back a few moments later, but has since fallen as well in the meantime. A lot of the setup maybe for that Spirit of the 9 wins is around the Windfire wheels. fineokay ulting one more time. SOT will luckily make it out alive this time. I don't see a world now where SOT is really comfortable sitting out in lane and farming. That might start to snowball. Maybe that opens the door for fineokay to start to rotate while SOT has to soak up some more experience. There's maybe more snowballing from that could change. It does open the door to Sam to slam back down, the stun, and SOT has to dash away. Right after using that TP, SOT comes back to lane and immediately down to red HP.
Now we're in 8 minutes in the game now, and you can see LASBRA's now rotating to the solo side to help out SoloOrTroll a little bit more. I don't think this is even worthwhile. Troll, though? What a great play! You kidding me?
He pulls back in. Sam for Soccer will finish off the kill. Both junglers doing the dirty work for the solo laners. Will Sam get executed? Yes, he will. LASBRA won't even be able to get that one It's a
Okay.
technical 2-for-1, but Sam is out of the game for the next 15 seconds thanks to that tier 1 tower.
And it's kind of what I was saying about that matchup. SoloOrTroll's going to use his mobility to stay away consistently away from fineokay. He's behind, yeah, but at the same time, like, it was a rough situation to be in. Now BaRRaCCuDDa could be dead.
No. Just an airstrike from BaRRaCCuDDa. Good engage there from PBM. Worth noting that Sam did end up getting the tier 1 tower despite falling to it by the end of things. Airstrike defensively, though, from BaRRaCCuDDa as the Renegades stack up just behind this purple buff. Sash through from Awesome Jake. PandaCat will have to leap away. That's all the disengage this Huyi has, but he turns around. 1 kill onto LASBRA. Up into the Windfire wheels. The crit should get it done. BaRRaCCuDDa will finish off the kill. PBM rejoins this fight, and now it's Renegades with the 3-man rotation towards him. The apple connects onto Awesome Jake, and the damage is there from CaptainTwig to finish him off. It's a 2-for-1 trade. Rival ahead for the moment.
I don't think we're done yet. Sam's coming round and his ultimate's coming up relatively soon here. A lot of big pressure once again from Rival. Funny enough, there was a really misunfortunate but yet fortunate state of what happened there for Rival. Uses his ultimate and Twig's just out of range of getting inside it, so he doesn't get teleported into the lane. But in doing so, it means Twig gets to flank around the back and they don't see him coming, and he gets to pick up Awesome Jake for the turnaround play and makes it come out on top at least on that gank for Rival. This is a crazy back and forth game so far. I'm really excited about the 5-on-5s. Like, once we get to the stage of fineokay and SoloOrTroll joining in, this is going to be really, really crazy engagements with a lot of back and forth and ebb and flow in them. I don't think one team will just roll through a team fight at this stage.
No, it doesn't seem to be that way, despite maybe level discrepancy. SOT doesn't have that tier 1 tower to retreat behind, so we'll have to play a little bit safer maybe in the solo lane. We'll go back, but now fineokay has that 1-level lead, a couple of kills, or maybe 1 kill of an advantage over his solo lane counterpart there. Wave frozen here in the long lane for the Renegades. PandaCat did fall a moment ago, but I think good on him to be able to at least turn around one of those kills. SoloOrTroll is here, though. And now LASBRA maybe looking in for the counter gank. Roots down onto Sam. Spin to win. Grabs some damage. Sam pulled back in. Windfire wheels up from Awesome Jake. BaRRaCCuDDa's waiting on the other end and will finish off the kill onto Thor. Apple over onto Jake this time and might pay for that with his life. To the skies from PBM will re-engage on the back line of the fight, and BaRRaCCuDDa again has to use that airstrike defensively.
Meanwhile, we've got 2 members in mid trying to deal with fineokay and not being able to find the pressure there. I do want to point out what you were talking about there on the initial gank from PandaCat. They pressured onto a purple and cost some lives. fineokay, though, is going to go down, but at the same time, we got Mike blinking on in to get the pick on BaRRaCCuDDa. That's a rank play if I've seen one from Mike there, wanting to make sure Barry's upset, that's for sure.
What's the metric of, a lot of kills in a game? Like 15, 12 minutes in? I kill a minute?
Yeah. A kill a minute is where I'm like, this is a fast-paced, kill-hungry game, bloodthirsty game, right? So when you get above that, you're feeling it now, and this is exactly what we were getting between these two.
Sam will teleport forward, stun down onto LASBRA. CaptainTwig will strife in a few and finish off the kill onto LASBRA. SOT is looking to turn around this 2v1 and will get the kill onto Sam for soccer, but a kill for CaptainTwig puts this one to bed. We're blowing this 1 kill a minute out of the water here, Hindu.
We really are. We're on to 2 a minute, and we're doing really well with how it's going here. It's funny enough because at first I was like, generally when you see high kill games like this, Dave, right, what normally happens, it means a lot of people are getting much experience across the map. Experience starts to tumble. Now, one lane that is definitely tumbling is the solo laners. I'd say they should be an edge or 2 a bit further ahead than where they are now, than level 12. But normally, you end up just seeing all the experience go down because it's so scrappy. The other lanes have continued performing pretty effectively at this point. Now, this is actually a bit of an issue, if anything, for someone like fineokay on a tanky target. Because when you put a solo laner that's tanky in there into the fray, you're looking for him to get big, strong, and hefty to hold up the front line for you. The problem is because he's been scrapping so much, and this game has been so kill-focused, that he's been being behind means he can't tank and stay alive as long as you want him to. And it means the mages and the hunters can really burst him a little bit quicker than you'd bargain for. So it has got a bit of a detriment there for Rival. At the same time, Rival do have a win in the fact that CaptainTwig is the highest level in the game right now.
It's the mystical male for fineokay. Will he be able to dive in and make good use? Sam disengaging while Sam takes to the skies, maybe for a re-engagement. Spear to the 9 wins, flies through Awesome Jake, taken low. Sam for Soccer has found a stun. In the meantime, CaptainTwig finishes off Jake. Venenu drops down Sam, and fineokay will take the final bit of damage on that Kukulkan. That's a good route from LASBRA to fully disengage this fight. But another 2-for-1, and it's Rival who turn their eyes towards this Gold Fury. SOT in range, moves through, and the Renegades will steal it away. The Typhoon flies back through, but can Rival turn around some kills to make Renegades pay for what they've done? The answer is yes. Rival will complete a messy fight, but Renegades steal away the Fury.
Okay, pace still going quick. 2K lead for Rival. And with how that fight goes down, Rival again, right? This is the same as game 1 for me. They're the ones choosing when we're doing a Gold Fury. They're the ones choosing the objective. Renegades aren't really looking at those whatsoever at the moment. But the difference is that was just a good individual play for SoloOrTroll, recognizing the situation he's in. I'm not sure about BaRRA being this far forward right now, but he does have Awesome Jake behind him. Cost him his beads for staying that far up there. Not a huge fan of that. But yeah, the way Renegades are playing this is like, let Rival start an objective and then maybe try and counterpunch. But the counterpunches aren't working out very well. If anything, was very lucky in my eyes that SoloOrTroll made such a good individual play to steal that away. Otherwise, that could have been even worse. What happens there, worst case, right? SoloOrTroll dies, but not only does he die, they lose more kills and the Gold Fury. Very risky, but hey, at the end of the day, it worked out.
Yeah, you're hovering at a 2K gold lead here. At this point, could have been a whole lot worse. And SOT has kind of closed that level gap here, even with fineokay, thanks to some nice kills. 6 out of the 8 participated from SOT. Yeah. 8 out of the 15 participated in here from fineokay, despite some of the early game struggles we've seen here from SoloOrTroll. He's absolutely had his hand in, I'm not going to do the decimal math, but maybe a larger percentage than what fineokay has.
And I know we're not really spoken about the supports just yet, but about that level discrepancy and the fact that the levels are a lot closer. Normally at this stage of the game, right, you'd see the supports being down about 2 levels compared to their carries and the rest of the team, and not have their secondary relics up. At this point, this is a big game for supports to make a big impact, and Mike's looking for it again.
He'll to the skies forward, and now Blink on in onto BaRRaCCuDDa, who will be able to dash away, no beads, and has now rounded out his relics with the Aegis, was level 13 with the Vision Shard a moment ago, but just needed one final back in order to complete that. I think BaRRaCCuDDa, in reality, has done a good job of kind of staying defensive under all of this offense. Sam will dunk down, though, try to continue this fast pace. Awesome Jake will be down to half HP. PBM will find the second stun. Spear to the 9 wins, splits the uprights, and PandaCat will complete the kill onto the Renegades Hunter. Thanks to the sun being broken, Rival find themselves a great pick.
And if you think about the initiation the Renegades really have, they're trying to play through this Naja, so removing the Naja early on opens the window for even more aggression. The Renegades are going to have a hard time answering. Looks like they're going to go straight over to the Pyromancer. This makes a lot of sense to me. Just continue to find the small victories. Take Tier 1, Gold Fury, Tier 1 tower in mid, Pyro, one by one, and Jake is not having a fun time on a Naja. Naja from behind definitely struggles in that support role, just the same way he would in the jungle. He's very linear to an extent, and it's one of the reasons why he does struggle at certain points in play, but it works out pretty well, honestly, for Rival's point of view. They're looking comfortable here, even more comfortable for me, Dave, than they did in Game 1 with how this has gone so far.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the biggest now gold lead swing we've seen from Rival, so Rival will feel plenty comfortable in that. To Renegade's credit, it's kind of hung around
Reddit's credit?
That.
Don't ever give Reddit
credit.
No.
Right, I immediately corrected myself. No chance I let that one slide through. Renegades have been able to stabilize right around that 2K gold differential until that most recent swing, and it spiked up here close to that 4.5, 5K mark for Team Rival. Where do you look to push this advantage is kind of that next question. All the Tier 1 towers are gone. Tier 2 towers still standing. Fury maybe a minute away is the next target for this Rival squad.
I mean, the danger is for Rival to look at an FG, which is where the natural course would be, is what Renegade's composition do. You've already had SoloOrTroll steal a Fury, right? So you're like, well, we need to be a bit more careful. But then you've also got to take into account there's a Kulkan. And now there's 2 fights going on at the same time, though, Dave, because we're not going to get a chance to analyze this game at all. It's all about play-by-play.
We'll just see one fight happening, though, over by the Fire Giant, and Venenu will finish off the kill onto Sam for Soccer. PandaCat has been able to escape beneath his Tier 2 tower, so it's really only this one fight that matters Rival lost a member, but they're the ones who are still trying to find some sort of pullback here. Awesome Jake is stunned down. LASBRA moves himself in, looks for the taunt, but doesn't end up finding much for it. LASBRA does manage to find a way to escape kind of out of the back door of this fight. CaptainTwig aggro's the FG over onto Jake. This scrappy rival squad continuing to search for a fight. Jake says, thank you very much. And we'll sash on in. Up and down goes BaRRaCCuDDa. That's a knock up and a dash out for SOT. CaptainTwig will get some damage onto Awesome Jake, but watch out for PBM. He drops down some damage, and it's a double kill for Twig, while PBM will add one as well. The fight gets extended, and Hindu rival, despite a numbers disadvantage, delay it long enough to get themselves in the lion's share of kills.
So the last little game, skirmish we saw, and it wasn't a skirmish, it was a fight for about a minute and a half, right? For any support players out there, for any mid laners out there, watch how PolarBearMike and Twig play this fight. Because Twig is in and out of the combat, and Mike is there peeling him the entire time. The dive from Renegades is really good towards Twig. They want to get the kill on Twig, but Twig buys time with his relics. He uses and plays around Mike, and Mike is constantly keeping eyes on where Twig is and what's going on. And for that, Twig is confident enough to stay in the engagement, Dave, and actually be able to deal more damage back out, and he's now 7-0-5. That was freaking beautiful, man. Like, that was just really good play from Rival, where Renegades attempted to use the man advantage. It didn't work out at all.
CaptainTwig has brilliantly rotated through, found a few kills for him, so now this Discordia becomes ever more difficult to deal with. Good time. I mean, it's not to be unexpected. But really, the only one net worth-wise from the Renegades is BaRRaCCuDDa is kind of splitting the difference with Team Rival. The gold differential right around that 6,500 mark. You look at SOT, put behind early, pretty low down on the net worth charts there. Player damage, though, fineokay. That's transferred over quite well from the solo lane and Twig as well. Primal Fury, though, now what Rival are wanting to look at, and they'll get it relatively for free. Maybe a smart play from the Renegades to not try to force the issue on a Fury defense.
Definitely. I think the one strength that Renegades need to really look at now is how their composition works. They are a team fight roster that is very good at diving the backline together, but they've not all been together in 20 minutes. It's been scrappy, discombobulated fights consistently. If they can group as a unit, they can take a good fight, because a lot of what we've seen out of Rival so far has come through this CaptainTwig play. Panda's having a great game at 3-2-7, funny enough, but I really think they need to shut Discordia first of all and make sure this dive situation works out for themselves. They've got to have LASBRA, SoloOrTroll, and Jake looking to collapse in the same targets to force Rival on the defensive foot for a minute. That opens a bit of a barrier for Venenu and BaRRaCCuDDa to pump damage in. Until that happens, though, it's going to be more of the same, where Rival are just going to keep picking them apart.
And they're picking the map apart as well against the Renegades. Both of the final Tier 2 towers in long and mid have since fallen, and not enough of a wave in the short lane to really consider contesting that one. And I think that's, I mean, obviously perfect use of this FG here for Rival. There's so much of this map that still has to be broken open, and now maybe turn your attention to the short lane. Get that Phoenix opened up here, and from what we've seen from Rival up to this point, I don't see a world where they shy away from maybe trying to find some sneaky engagements. Maybe Jake, one more time, is a bit too far forward. Maybe Rival starts to push the issue a little bit heavier here with another minute and 40 seconds left in the Fire Giant. Could be the case, should they choose to go that route. Renegades, though, have some ground to make up. SOT, as mentioned prior, has been able to, mitigate a lot of what happened up against him in that early game. So maybe the Susano starts to roll through here towards the end. LASBRA as well as maybe had a rough start to this game at 1-4-8, but participating in all 9 of the kills. A big 9 turns blessing could absolutely turn something around. It's now fineokay who has found the LASBRA by these back Harpies. We'll look to jump onto him. But one ended up finding the engagement. SamForSoccer splitting off in the short lane to push in that one. CaptainTwig is taking too much damage, and BaRRaCCuDDa will just finish off the kill onto Twig, who's underneath the left side. Phoenix PBM taken low as well. This might be the fight that the Renegades need to get back into this game. An airstrike up and over, and BaRRaCCuDDa swoops down Ackline. PBM taken down by SOT. fineokay splitting the difference on the other side, and BaRRaCCuDDa completes the soft double. Double tap from Sam. Aegis out by Venenu, but ultimately the Kukulkan will fall. SamForSoccer on full-blown retreat mode, but he is deep in the Renegades base at this point. That defense works perfectly. The Renegades get all 5.
See, you didn't need me. Keep going.
No, that's okay. Feel free.
No, like that's why I left, you know? That was the whole reason for it. Not me having a technical issue or anything like that, you know? Like, yeah, keep going, Dave. Great job.
No, that team fight happened. That team fight happened at the perfect time there, right? I mean, it's a bucket of water I'm trying to bail the water out with, and then a perfect team fight at the perfect time, and Renegades are able to hold strong on the defense.
Okay, I was joking. Like, you didn't have to do the analysis too, did you? Like, you didn't leave me something, Dave, at this moment. Honestly, it was a really good defense, but it was a scrappy one at that. I think the diving from Rival really cost them more than they bargained for. And because of that, at the same time as the Fire Giant now going on cooldown, back up in 30 seconds again, Pyromancer going down, it's giving Renegades a bit of an edge to catch up a bit of this lead, find a little bit more farm, try and hit those level 20s for the likes of Venenu, maybe get a little bit closer for LASBRA too. Like, all in all, just get towards that 6th item for each of them, which is where Rival have got that gold disparity now. Like, being at 6 items versus 5 is a huge difference. It's really, you don't feel the gold until you see the item difference between the two.
Mm-hmm. And now XP differential still matters heavily here. I mean, LASBRA at 18, SamForSoccer still trying to reach 20, 25, 26. You start to get to that middle ground between 25 and 30 is when maybe some of the XP starts to fall off a little bit. Rival positioning themselves over by this Fire Giant pit has fallen off and since respawned. And we haven't seen really from the Renegades a full-blown contest yet on one of these massive objectives, or at least none that fully jump to mind. You got to be careful, though, if you're Rival. You got great execute, great steal potential with Venenu.
I think the one thing you're looking for, Dave, is what Renegades seem to be very, very much susceptible to, which is waiting for a situation to go right and running with the energy they get from the last engagement. And I think Renegades definitely, like, they struggle when they start to try and make things happen and nothing happens for them. However, when they find a good win, they keep trying to use that snowball, use that momentum in their favor. So I do expect a better defense in here. And the way Renegades is currently positioned, it kind of shows you that idea, right? Like, they're starting to step up a little bit more. They're grouping as a foul. And they might have just caught Rival with their pants down. But then again, there is a Horus. He's in the sky as the FG started up.
Where will PBM slam down? He's all alone! Nobody from Rival has joined PBM, but it will stop the FG. Rival rotating over from mid lane the old-fashioned way, and no drop ship for the other 4 members of the team. But it has stopped the Renegades from continuing that Fire Giant. I like the momentum swing maybe there from Renegades. Let's try something out while Rival are on the Fire Giant. Or on the Fury, rather.
Yeah, makes sense. But normally it would be great. The difference is there's a Horus, and that's exactly what Horus is going to do. But now Renegades have to fight this FG. They can't give this one up for free.
SOT will look to make a big impact as he has continued throughout some of these fights. fineokay has taken some damage. LASBRA in the backline, 3 members of Rival will turn their attention towards the Erlong Shen. Awesome Jake has taken too much damage, but so has SamForSoccer. Spear of the 9 wins, knocks a couple to the side, and Windfire Wheels will connect up onto one member of Team Rival, and BaRRaCCuDDa will put down PandaCat. This is a good start to a fight here for the Renegades. If they're able to push it even further, could be a Tier 1, Tier 2 towers on the horizon.
Yeah, Rival, very wise to back up there, I feel like, with how that happened. They've kept themselves healthy enough at the moment, and they've got enough relics for the most part, I want to say, to try and contest this again and stop Renegades. I don't know if Renegades fully commit here. I'm not fully sold on it. They've only got 3 members on it now. However, LASBRA wrapping around the back. If they can pitch and go for kills, they've probably got a better shot here.
That's good split aggression to keep PBM out of steal range. Venenu is over in this fight, though, so he could make a difference. LASBRA taken down by fineokay, but immediately answered back by SOT onto PBM. Big 1v1 that SOT is able to win, and that's his 2nd kill now in this fight. fineokay will look to keep some of that solo lane 1v1 potential going here. Spirit of the 9 wins will delay that follow-up maybe from SamForSoccer. He's trapped in the back of this blue buff pit, just waiting on the cooldowns. Anvil of Dawn will take him up to the sky, but it's fineokay who's now pulled the aggression of the rest of the Renegades. Rage Form hurts. Venenu learns that the hard way, but an Aegis will save his life, and fineokay will ultimately fall.
Yeah, huge Aegis there, but you're starting to see SoloOrTroll really find his footing now on this Susano and why they drafted it in the later stages. We were wondering what kind of build he's gone for. It is that hybrid style, makes it very tricky to bring him down with the Gladiator Shield in there too, but it's sustain mixed in. He's able to like box and stay in the fray a little bit longer, and the support there from Venenu was really solid. Beautiful Aegis towards the end where fineokay nearly got that kill. End of the day, a scrappy fight that honestly Rival won't be too upset about. Main reason being, PandaCat's now back alive, and Renegades didn't get that FG. That's where that all started. Still some disconnects though, Dave, on Renegades. They could have all twigged together. Instead, LASBRA was on one target, SoloOrTroll's looking at Horus, look at the same target, and they're going to disappear quickly with this sort of lineup. Splitting the difference is not what you're looking for.
Well, Beads and Aegis, two big actives still available for a couple of the carries for Rival. Windfire Wheels will start off this fight, but the FG has continued to be plugged away. The 1-2 tap from SamForSoccer. Venenu will secure the FG here for the Renegades, and Rival didn't even really find an opening to move themselves forward. Down comes Sam, though. It looks like PBM wants to try to find a re-engagement as well. BaRRaCCuDDa deletes SamForSoccer as BaRRaCCuDDa will defensively airstrike away. It's a Fire Giant and a pick for the Renegades.
And SoloOrTroll hunting for some more, but he's really only going to find Mike on the tail end. Won't be able to find that. Meanwhile, mid-Jig jumping on in towards fineokay yet again. SoloOrTroll going to zone out the right-hand side. Dave, that fight was pretty... I like the idea from Rival, you know, trying to reinitiate. The problem was, I think, SamForSoccer and Horus both go in the same area. Renegades saw them both coming, one after the other. So they were able to just funnel on in. BaRRaCCuDDa got a lot of free damage off, and that's where Sam lost his life. With the Fire Giant now and all these Renegades members. It's Phoenix time, and Rival... they're on the defensive for the first time this game.
Things get precarious now. SamForSoccer 20 seconds away from respawning, and maybe smart from the Renegades to not try to push too hard. I mean, you still got some tier 2 towers available. Maybe let's do the safe thing. We've really just gotten the lead maybe back into our control. Gold lead is on our side for the first time this game. Let's just play it smart, and the Renegades maybe play this one smart by backing off at that mid lane. Phoenix, SamForSoccer is back on the respawn. Renegades will take themselves the Pyromancer. So they're picking apart those objectives. They have a good feeling about securing with minimal casualties.
Yeah, and I think the call there from Renegades, honestly, Dave, was like, hey, Venenu's like, I don't have Beads or Aegis up right now, guys. I'm not feeling super confident. And then you look at Awesome Jake, and Jake's like, yeah, I can't even give you a shell or a sprint to get away. You're going to be on your own here. And so I think that's the better side of Valor from Renegades. Like, hey, why don't we go spend this gold real quick, try and finish off our final items, and then look to reinitiate again. Fire Giant lasts for another about 2 minutes at this point. And with also that Fury spawning, and it's going to be an Oni Fury, it's going to allow it to maybe do a bit of sieging and allow the Oni Fury minions to help them out in doing so. First things first, though, push out these lanes and then start to decide what the option's going to be. See all the pings going around, trying to get an idea of where the wards are placed, I think, more than anything there.
Yeah, it's a small advantage maybe for Rival with Sam in the short lane pushing down that tier 2 tower thanks to a nice minion wave, but won't last for long. Oni Fury now locked down by the Renegades, and all 5 members of RNG are going to move themselves over to the long lane where a tier 2 tower is the last line of defense. Sam able to pull back a tier 2 tower maybe of Team Rival's own. So we'll continue to have that the short lane minions pushing forward. There's maybe an engagement from the Renegades with a numbers advantage.
Yeah, but it looks like SoloOrTroll is thinking about backing right now too. He does have teleport available. Sam's got a decision to make. No, he's not backing until just that second. He was like, guys, do you want me back or do you want me to continue going for the Phoenix? Call's been to fall back. SoloOrTroll is going to base at the exact same time. Oh no, he's going to cancel. They both cancel. The little bit cheeky battle of like, where is everyone is going on? And that's always like, hey, we think Sam's in base. Is he in base? Is he not? Neither of them know. They're looking to see if Thor turns up in right. If he does, SoloOrTroll goes back because he's got TP. Whereas if Thor doesn't go back, then he should continue sticking around.
Well, it's SamForSoccer that fully pulls the trigger on going back to base. SOT is still here. It's a 3-2 split for the Renegades. Still Fire Giant buff on all 5 members. 30 more seconds on the FG buff. Engagement under this left side Phoenix, and it's Awesome Jake that's caught out. PolarBearMike. Venenu eventually drops him down, but it's BaRRaCCuDDa that maybe did most of that damage. No more Horus for 50 seconds.
Yeah, great little play on that left-hand side. That sash from Jake was enough to set up the damage from Venenu and BaRRa that were on the same page. And with Mike not being available, one of the reinitiation tools that they've been using here, Rival, is not going to be available for this defense. And the split is going on, and SoloOrTroll and LASBRA go in!
Whoa. They blink forward and they get Sam for soccer. PandaCat has gone down as well. This is going to be the full-blown deicide. We'll see if CaptainTwig can pull one back. He sure can. SOT, talk about a comeback after that solo lane went rough. He turns it around. It's a double kill and a deicide, and Renegades, they're going to tie up the set.
Well, for the longest part of that game, Dave, I really felt Rival were just going to run away with it with how they were playing. But then a couple of little weird skirmishes in the jungle, a couple more fights than they should have taken, came back and backfired on them. And there was a really weird fight giant as well. Like the fact that we saw Renegades with 3 members just go, okay, yeah, we're going to do it. We're going to have 2 guys zone away, and that's going to be effective enough and no contest at all. Really swung that wide open. I think Renegades kind of got a little bit too fruity in terms of using those engaging ultimates with Thor and Horus, and it came back to haunt them a little bit in that time. Same can be said, though, Dave, for how the first time I actually saw SoloOrTroll and LASBRA on the same page. As soon as they do, they win the game.
I'm not sure what to make of that one. I mean, talk about the kill-a-minute threshold being blown out, and I'm not sure how that math breaks down towards the end of this one. We'll see in post-game stats if we reach 32 kills for 32 minutes. I'm not so sure. I'm sure the desk, though, will let us know after game number 2.
Dave, that one was so confusing. I had to call in the heavy hitter here, Mackenzie, to try and help me break down that one. And as she explained to me pretty eloquently, when the Susano solo finally gets out of the rough laning phase and starts team fighting, it's going to be rough. And that's exactly what Rival just found out. Rival was up 10K, pushing Phoenixes, had Fire Giant, was doing everything right. And then all of a sudden, one team fight, that siege on left Phoenix goes poorly. They can't get out like Mackenzie wants to right now. And just like that, the game turned on its head.
Man, why am I here if you've got the dog? Yeah, they had Fire Giant. Yes, they had a 10K lead. They have all of it. It seems like Rival was a little bit over willing to dive onto that left side Phoenix. We saw the fight completely splits up. The Thor literally inside the enemy Phoenix, or inside the enemy Fountain rather, and immediately crushed 5-0 Renegade. Then move over to the Fire Giant, force another fight there. At this point, SOT is not getting handled by fineokay in lane anymore. He's actually level 20, and they win 2 back-to-back fights defending the Fire Giant against Rival, immediately closing out that 10,000 gold differential at the 25-minute mark, and SOT just obliterated every single one of those team fights. From there, Renegades just kind of cleanly win the game.
SoloOrTroll is so impressive in those team fights, man. I mean, he was all over the place, exactly what you need him to be doing. But is that exclusive to Susano solo? Like, I guess he's a little bit tankier and can withstand a little bit more. For me, I think Finch said it best as we were watching behind the scenes. This just proves that Susano's really sick as a god, not necessarily that Susano solo is necessarily really sick.
Yeah, I'm not fully convinced that Susano in the soul lane's the best place you want him. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and on a blanket term and say that shouldn't work the majority of the time, and Rival prove it. For the first 20 minutes, they completely abuse this absolutely insane Renegades, but they just get a little bit overzealous, they get a little bit cocky on their siege, and immediately get crushed against it. And eventually, once it is 30 minutes into the game, it's not a Susano solo anymore, it's just a slightly tankier one. And he's able to run through the back line, no one does enough damage to stop him, and that's what's going to happen. He's going to just run you down.
So now we're going to have to get ready for game number 3. We're going to throw it to a quick break as we get ready. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more SPL. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us. I heard you guys were concerned that I'm not petting Mackenzie enough. I dare you to find another dog as spoiled with love as Mackenzie. See, here's the strat. I actually just lean back a little bit. The entire time she's with me, I'm scratching the belly right down here, but it's below the camera, so it's less distracting. But if it's better for you guys to watch me give her the love she deserves, which is understandable, I can do that for you. Miff, game number 3 about to start. In Rival, I mean, at some point you just got to say, hey, we did a lot of things really well. We were up 10K about to win that game. Let's just clean it up a bit.
You say clean it up a bit. I'm thinking the comms are going a little bit more like, hey guys, maybe we don't just straight up throw the game 100%. You can give a team as much leeway as you want, but 10,000 gold. Fire Giant on 5 members. Literally 20 minutes into the game. I can't come up with any scenario where they might lose that, and somehow they find that one silver lining, Renegades, to just completely turn the game on its head. I said it in the chat. I'll say it on the desk. That was a Game of Throws.
Has to be. I mean, you're not winning those games unless the other team gives you an opportunity at some point. Credit to Renegades for sure, but Rival should be able to close out a game from that sort of lead. We'll see if they can find that sort of lead again in Game 3 and this time close it out, or if Renegades can not have to climb so far in order to find the set victory. It's proven to me, though, Miff, I mean, this is just a Renegades team you can never count out, ever. They seem like they can always come back and make a play, and that's a great quality for a team to have.
Not only come back and make a play, but completely disregard conventional Smite as we know it. It's not often that you're going to find a draft that will stump both you and me both. That's nuts to me, and Renegades somehow make it work, despite some early stumbles in the game. Yeah, you drafted incredibly strange, you got punished for it in the early, but the pure grit and integrity to just keep your head down and continue playing out a match despite that insane deficit in the early takes a ton of focus.
Well, now a couple supports taken off the board here by Renegades, Hercules and Yamoja. Kamazat's Raijin, 2 standard bans here for Rival so far this set. And the Ullr again here for Renegades, just like they've been doing. Now it's up to see what Rival wants to do. Let through the Horus, then they pick the Horus. It's been a little bit odd, but no Fafnir ban this time around. Instead, it's the Jing ban. So now Fafnir is open. That's been the pick that Jake has gotten banned away from him a lot so far today. And indeed, Renegades go straight to it.
Gotta imagine that Rival pick up Horus here. I mean, it's going to work out every step of the way. It fits PBM's complete playstyle. He's going to be able to get aggressive. He's going to be able to reposition around the map. And he had a fantastic game in Game 1. I don't imagine they change it out at all. This Sobek, most likely going to go towards fineokay. It's going to be just sitting in the lane until level 20. Then he's going to be a more of a facilitator, solo laner, where he's going to find the engagements, be able to dive into that backline. I like both drafts so far, barring the fact that I thought it was going to be Horus, and it just isn't.
Sobek Ho Yi, and now fineokay's pleased to play something besides Sobek have gone ignored. It feels like I can't imagine that's going to go anywhere but the solo lane with how much success Fine has had with that pick, but could always be for PBM in that support role. Hachiman is the pick this time for BaRRaCCuDDa, where it was Chernobog before when he didn't get the Jing Wei. So doesn't want that global presence, wants instead for a little bit more lane presence, it feels like, as Renegades pick the Susano. And I think this is really smart here, Miff. This is just a flex pick at this point now for Renegades. Either LASBRA can take it or it can go to SOT in the short lane.
Saying Susano's a flex pick is so absolutely new to me that my brain had to just really work through why you were thinking that. And yes, SOT can take it over there, and it's going to have a much better time against Sobek. You're not going to get bullied out nearly as much. He's going to be able to freely farm the lane, likely be able to proxy waves without too much pressure from the Sobek. So I am willing to bet that this is going to go towards the solo lane, and it's a fantastic pick into Olorun. You should be able to dive into that backline very easily. Once that Sanctified Field is down, that's free food for Susano. Until then, BaRRaCCuDDa's only job is to passively farm in lane, picking the second safest hunter. He's going to have that CC immunity in his ultimate. He's going to have a dash to be able to deal with a lot of the aggression from Rival's comp. And they're going to have a ton of burn potential just because they have a Fafnir.
So a couple different comfort picks here for Renegades banned by Rival, Kukulkan, and that Pele. Renegades doing much the same, looking for these comfort picks to take away from Sam for Soccer, the Thanatos, and the Kali, 2 picks that he's played a decent amount of. That does leave Thor open still, and even though Rival didn't win last game, I think that Thor is a part of why they got off to such a great lead. A little surprised to not see them pick it earlier on here?
I do expect Thor, every time he's available, I do expect him to be picked, but I can say the exact same about Horus. Let me just check that ban phase. Yeah, Horus still available right now. Rival could pick it up. They don't have their support locked. Oh, yes, they do. Artio got picked up. So Horus is likely just going to go completely unpicked in this match. Vamana, the age-old counter pick for Olorun. Sanctified Field is going to stop you if you're completely CC immune. It's going to be hard for Vamana to sustain through a lot of the damage that Olorun has. He's not going to be able to leverage magical defense nearly as much, as it won't work with his passive, but at the same point, what's Olorun going to do when a giant baby's stomping on your skull?
I like the Vamana pick a lot. I think it synergizes well with the Fafnir. He's going to probably be building Shoguns. You can coerce him, and his big baby becomes that much more effective. I'm not sure about the Nuwa, though. Renegades played this Nuwa Game 1, and I didn't really feel the effectiveness there.
I'm not even certain that I love Nuwa into this comp. Yes, it's going to be good into this last pick of Awilix, but the rest of Rival's team isn't going to be looking to dive onto this Nuwa. Nuwa has some of the best counter engagement and self-peel inside of that Clay Minions and Shining Metal combo, but the really only person who's going to be trying to jump way back into that backline is the Awilix. Awilix is going to realize that very early on. I doubt Sam tries to focus out this Nuwa from minute one. Instead, maybe shifts the attention towards trying to camp out the soul lane Susano. Not soul lane, that's jungle this time. Or camping out this Hachiman.
I mean, the Sobek Awilix combo is a great one, and we've seen it time and time again, but it's time for us to say goodbye for now and say, this is the hello pa. Hello to the casters. It's Dolson and Hindu, man.
And unfortunately, it's no more Mac as much as I wish it could be.
know.
You got Dolson and Hindu just a little bit longer. I think, unfortunately, although maybe we just have a Mac cam. Maybe we find a way to install a Mac cam somewhere.
I'm not gonna lie, Dave. I'm not gonna lie. Like the best thing said on that analyst desk really came from Mac according to Aggro. So yeah, like broke it all down completely. It's a game 3 we go though.
The best thing I heard was that Mac has a hello and a goodbye paw. And that's totally peak cuteness there, but it is game 3, you point out, and that is what's important here. Renegades a great bounce back in game 2 after Rival took game 1 a little bit quicker than the Renegades were able to in game number 2. Now we've seen some run back. PBM right back on this Artio. CaptainTwig, another Olorun game. The big change though maybe is Sam4Soccer on this Awilix.
Yeah, but the big change here is what Mike's doing at the start. It's the same as what we've seen in previous seasons. Follow the jungler around. You're going to go over towards the duo lane, then the support is going to be there to try and slow you down. But now LASBRA's in a world of hurt. He forces away with his beads away from the root, and Twig off the mark with the damage means he should slip the noose here. But that's a ton of damage for LASBRA to take early on, and probably send him back to base a little bit earlier than intended.
PBM blinks through to move his way over to that speed buff side, minion in tow. So maybe a walking ward actually to spot out where that Artio is moving. LASBRA doesn't fully go back though, but that's enough damage. I mean, he's sitting at red health. You talk about no chance on an early gank, might have to go back to base early. LASBRA just now going back. So it's a big difference maybe. That PBM has already made 1 minute and 20 seconds into the game.
Yeah, it's very similar to the previous seasons. With the jungle invade meta, this is what Renegades have been answered to in terms of their start. They've been sending the mid laner towards speed at the start, and then sending the dual lane to pressure and get aggressive towards the purple, and that's opened the window for LASBRA to look at getting purple into red. But the way Rival have looked to answer that back is sending the support in response. Well, that leaves Mike in a 2v, so PandaCat a 2v1 over on the left-hand side.
We'll be able to milk up a little bit more of that, or soak up rather, a little bit more of that XP though, with his support roaming elsewhere. So might have to play more defensively, but maybe won't catch a massive level discrepancy. Sam4Soccer on an early gank over towards the mid lane. LASBRA taken low, but won't get taken down just yet. Poor LASBRA has just not been given a moment to breathe up to this point. Now he rotates over to the mid lane, immediately ganked by Sam, and has to go back one more time.
Yeah, it felt like they were just trying to pressure so quickly there, honestly. Like they were trying to clear the wave effectively, but LASBRA using all his abilities meant he was just sat in the lane like a sitting duck. Minions were whacking away at him at the same time. Like the focus wasn't really on him there for the most part. It was the minions that did the majority of that damage, and that's just worst case scenario for them. Now with that, Rival could look to invade and pressure some more because of what they found in that mid lane area.
Hey, a red buff sounds very nice to CaptainTwig and Sam4Soccer. They'll drop it, won't pick that one up. So if nothing else, I mean, we haven't seen a massive level difference despite LASBRA being heavily pressured so far into this game, doing a decent job farming, all things considered. Sam4Soccer will now pull maybe a half level lead over LASBRA. What is he able to do, though, with that advantage is the next question. LASBRA, though, finding now an opening for himself to steal away a blue buff.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that you're going to see there is that the pressure that LASBRA can exert in the early game has kind of like gone to the wayside a little bit. Like his early ganks, his early rotations aren't really on the table anymore. And the same can be said for like the Awilix isn't going to necessarily do that the whole time, right? She might want to farm up a little bit more, get all her abilities online first of all. So in doing so, they've kind of nullified Renegades getting aggressive in the early game. Like outside of the duo lane, there's no real super pressure to be found for Renegades now because LASBRA really won't be able to make an influence for a moment or two. And that's just going to establish all their laners for Rival to hit their level 5 spikes and get their ultimates online without being threatened in the laning phase.
You talk, sort of pressure, maybe more defensive mindset from the Renegades. Venenu's gone back to this new a pick that, granted, could play kind of far back, poke out some good damage. Yeah. But it didn't quite find maybe the success that the Renegades were hoping for in game number 1. Has seen some success, though, throughout the games we've seen today. So maybe I don't mind Renegades giving this one another shot.
Yeah, they're kind of giving themselves a playstyle, though, is what Renegades are doing here. They're like, listen, Ven, we ain't going to play for you, son. So what we need to do is farm that mid wave, don't lose the tower, and just try and be relevant by mid to late game, okay? So you focus on that, and we're going to look to pressure around the map with Jake and with LASBRA whenever they turn up, and look to find some wins elsewhere. SoloOrTroll's having a pretty good time in the solo lane of trying to find pressure on his own. Same can be said for BaRRaCCuDDa. So exacerbate that a little bit more by bringing in LASBRA and Awesome Jake, and just leave Venenu to farm up, seems to be their calling card. But in doing so, it opens situations like this that teams are going to try and run you through your mid lane when you've got a more defensive god there that you're not going to be able to find things off. And that's why we see that red buff get invaded this time round, and also the purple on the left-hand side. This is working out great for Rival in this early game.
Yeah, Renegades have also picked some actives that'll support a defensive playstyle. 4 beads and a horrific emblem. His Awesome Jake is the only one changing that one up. Second blue buff invaded in a row. PBM tries to blink forward to steal it away, but LASBRA, despite being largely forced out in this early game, has been able to become relevant. Double stun from PBM as a Typhoon will fly on through. Artio taken low. Venenu plugs some damage and gets an assist from the mid lane, but it's LASBRA who ends up finding first blood. Rough start begun, and LASBRA will strike first.
Yeah, that was Mike. Mike, for me, on map awareness there, was a little bit susceptible. He didn't realize that he had 3 members around him, because the flank around the back from Awesome Jake just made sure it was a turnaround play. I don't think Renegades would have continued to assault Mike and just let Mike do that for free, holding the W key down, if they didn't know that Jake was around the corner, and it became a 3v1. fineokay was still in mid, there was no sign of anybody else on Rival, and Mike just overstepped his bounds there for my liking. Obviously, there's a lot of big picture, we can see the map a lot more than them, but Mike just didn't realize there was an extra man there, and that's what found Renegades that first blood on recognizing the situation they were in to collapse on in. Getting that first blood kill as well, Dave, to LASBRA, really just bring him back into the fray again, so to speak, with how the early game went for him. That 400 gold bounty will definitely help him out in terms of his build.
Pulls it back a little bit, keeps the levels even for the time being. SoloOrTroll, on the opposite side of this jungle battle, has moved into the Talaria boots first overall. Will make use on his way to mid lane, ganking out Venenu, who's going to move away from a lot of the damage, rooted down, as you point out, and Awesome Jake will walk away from that one. Slight assistance towards Venenu, so not totally out on an island, but you can see SoloOrTroll is going to have some mid lane mindset ganks, at least early on here in this game.
Oh yeah, definitely, and I think the one thing Venenu's just going to watch his position in the entire time, because they're going to hunt for him. If they can get his ultimate when she's down because he used it elsewhere, they're going to look to collapse. Oh, no. As Twig just bit off way more than he could chew there. Great rotation from SoloOrTroll.
Yeah, Sanctified Field won't save you this time, and he moves it out, but ultimately great rotation, as you point out, from SOT to move over. SOT now has participated in a couple of the kills. The Vamana, a pick notorious for just sprinting at the back line of
Pretty
Team
much,
Rival.
yeah.
So if you're PandaCat, you're CaptainTwig, now you've got to be a little bit concerned that SOT has stolen away the 3rd blue buff in a row from fineokay. Bad to worse here in the solo lane.
Yeah, well, this is the typical matchup. Warrior with early pressure versus a Sobek that's going to nullify the lane. SoloOrTroll realizes he's not going to kill Sobek, right? So trying to strip away a bit of jungle where possible, great. Or clear the wave and rotate. And that's exactly what he did to find that pick on Twig. His supporting feature of getting over there just shows that he can get in and out of the laning phase and not really lose too much there. I do want to talk about the beads that he picked up too, because it's not often you really see a Vamana pick up beads, but he's a little bit worried about the fact he's against a Sobek in lane who's got, let's guess, a ridiculous amount of knockups and an Awilix jungle. So if they do pull him back in, he's going to have a hard time, and he's very susceptible to being knocked up. So going for the beads route makes a lot of sense, because if they look to pressure him early and get fineokay too big for his britches and too big to handle, it's going to cause more of an issue. So those beads early on is more of a distracting, stay away from me, don't gank me, I've got beads scenario, rather than a, hey, don't worry, come pressure me. They want SoloOrTroll to get free farm against Sobek. They don't want the jungler pressuring that right-hand side if they can help it.
It's Relic Dagger for the Sobek, picked up for fineokay, and tends to be one of the first few items that we've started to see, I think, on the Sobek, specifically with Blink being that first relic picked up. It's just constant sprint forward, blink, try to find some engagements, and for all of kind of the flip side of the reasons that you bring up SOT bringing the beats. The engage potential, the late game potential of this Sobek is just so heavy that a relic dagger just makes things a little bit harder to deal with.
I think the big key there as well is that Sobek isn't really going to find a killing lane anyway, but also I don't think Vamana is going to kill a Sobek in that lane, right?
Right.
And if they both go unchecked and the junglers come over, I don't think the jungler's going to make too much of an influence there. So look for your later game builds, you know, the Relic Dagger. In my eyes, I don't think it's like the best first item, but it depends on the matchup you're in, and it depends on the state of the game. So I do like it in this scenario, have your relics up a little bit earlier. Sure, we mentioned earlier on with the fact that we saw an Olorun pick it up. Cooldown reduction and movement speed ain't so bad. Getting your Sobek in range by naturally walking at people to be able to find that pluck a little bit quicker is going to be impactful. And taking into account here, fineokay did go for the Talaria boots, which is the fastest moving boots in the game. It's not something you always see, but it also helps you out with that mana deficit that you're going to find in the laning phase here, especially when you lose those blue buffs so often.
Yeah, he was able just now to get his first blue buff in the last 3, so fineokay thankful for that. And just slight pressure. You can see SOT moving forward to check, and unfortunately we'll find an empty blue buff, and he's doing a little bit more. SOT is he's going to start proxying out this wave. It's going to pull maybe fineokay into a bit of an awkward spot, who will have to move himself forward. Proxying is just, I feel like, such an obnoxious thing for solo laners to have to deal with, especially when you have a Vamana who could potentially escape. SoloOrTroll pulled over to try to find an engagement now to help out. Colossal Fury from SOT will be used, but this is what you expect. You're proxying a wave, he's just going to pop his ultimate and walk out. You're wasting more time from fineokay and SoloOrTroll moving over to deal with it.
Exactly. What does that create? Well, it creates this pressure that Renegades have around the red buff area. The bad news is the red buff isn't even available just now. So they don't have the timer exactly because they're trying to go off their side. And that puts pressure on Jake, who's getting focused here, but the ult exchange isn't great so far. Jake's still marching on, and that's too much for my liking.
Jake will transform over, a double stun on the move forward, and Jake will finish off the first kill.
Okay,
LASBRA drops down one more, though. Venenu still alive inside the mist. PBM will look to finish off the kill, and SoloOrTroll instead is able to do so. LASBRA teleports himself forward. BaRRaCCuDDa still awaiting in the wings, and that's maybe enough to keep SoloOrTroll at bay. Chase on, but BaRRaCCuDDa is running away, but into the base of Rival here. Can SoloOrTroll finish off the kill? fineokay can. Onto LASBRA. fineokay with a nice rotation. LASBRA finally put down. The 1v1 of the century commences, but SOT is helped out. That's unfair. A 2v1, and SoloOrTroll takes a tumble.
Okay, that fight was absolutely, I'm gonna word it clear, stupid beyond belief, right? Because Awesome Jake goes in, he eats a truckload of damage, and I'm like, Jake, leave. Jake, why are you still going? And then eventually he ults at like 7% health, and I'm like, well, he's dead. And I'm like, well, that's just the failed engage. That's just terrible play. Next minute, BaRRaCCuDDa on this horse that has no, like, S key whatsoever, full on W's into a fight of 3, picks up 2, and then ends up getting out of that 2. Barrett's trust in Jake there to, like, commit to Jake's call, I feel like, was beyond belief to make that worthwhile for him. And Renegades catapult themselves into a continued lead of something that just shouldn't have worked out from my point of view. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's worked to the tune of 1,500 gold and about 1,000 XP 12 minutes in. We've seen Rival pull these small 1 to 2 to 3k gold leads early in the game, and now it's going to be Renegades in game 3 who have the chance to show us what they can do with a small gold lead on their side. 6 kills on the board for them. BaRRaCCuDDa's participated in 4. LASBRA now on the Susano, more assassin-centric, has participated in 4 as well. Defensive ultimate burn from BaRRaCCuDDa, but that's something we've seen time and time again. Jing airstrikes defensively here. Now he'll charge his way out. Jake is here to play, though, Hindu.
Yeah, and he's going to do business as usual. That was a bit of pressure straight away. I think the one thing Venenu's going to be a little bit careful about, just watching him use that ult there again, is to make sure that he remembers his ult's on cooldown, because Rival are going to focus him the moment it is. It's a lot easier to pick a Noir when that ultimate's not up. But the fight of the Gold Fury is underway.
Half health on the Gold Fury, and a Sanctified Field from CaptainTwig will slow the offense from the Renegades, but Venenu will finish off the Rival mid laner nonetheless. Jake in Dragon form down to half HP, and LASBRA on the backside of the fight is doing the dance with SoloOrTroll, and SOT will rotate again, make it a 2-for-1, and Sam learns from last time and will run himself away. CaptainTwig for BaRRaCCuDDa is the trade, and Gold Fury still stands.
If I'm honest, I felt that was a good trade for Rival at first because BaRRaCCuDDa getting caught out there. His beads were on cooldown at that moment in time. He just hit level 12, so I didn't have that secondary relic. But more importantly, we just talked about him running away with the ultimate. He got caught in that corridor again between Duo Lane and the Gold Fury. Rival did a great job of pinching it. The problem was, is they invested troops forward to pinch onto BaRRaCCuDDa. They left Twig alone, and that's where Renegades found the turnaround kill. If anything, it's probably okay for Renegades' point of view because it keeps Twig pinned down in terms of levels. He's now still level 12 at now 03. But more importantly, they waste that ultimate around the Gold Fury and they don't even get the Gold Fury.
And it's a different look. You bring up CaptainTwig. Remember, Relic Dagger was his second completed item after that Bancroft and Boots, I guess, make 3. Moving right into the ring build here. So a different look for CaptainTwig. Gonna start maybe finding some of that power spiking just a little bit earlier.
I think that's all about what the matchups are too. I think the way the Smite's played at the moment, itemization is definitely a talking point every single game, but there's so much more flexibility these days to builds. No one's in a cookie cutter build, even Hunters to an extent. Sure, they mainly go pen, but we still see the crit thrown in there now and again. No one really has a cookie cutter build, and that just mixes it up a little bit more for my liking. But also, it shows why Twig is varying his build up based off the matchups he's in. Talking about Twig a little bit more, I think that second kill that Renegades got in this game, where they caught Twig rotating towards red, was a bigger impact than losing PolarBearMike moments before. Because I think that just kind of slowed down the pace of why Rival had pressure in the mid lane against this new war, and it allowed it to like stem the bleeding from Venenu's point of view and get himself a little bit further ahead to be able to step up into the wave once more. And with that, it's allowing Renegades now to be in a position where they are the ones in control, but what can they do with it? Can they look for a Gold Fury objective? Do they feel confident in that? And the answer is, I don't think they would, because they've got to play around the Olorun. That stasis field, so impactful around objectives.
Yeah, CaptainTwig may be sensing that from behind, building into Relic Dagger is not the route to go. If I build a ring, maybe I'm more prevalent earlier and can start to make an impact and won't be 3-1 for much longer. fineokay and 3 other members of Rival will aggress over onto Venenu, and Fire Shards ring down and plug some good damage. Sanctified Field from CaptainTwig will slow down SOT, but not all that much. He just walks himself through. Colossal Fury will shrug off most of that slow. He'll walk his way out. Big ultimate down now for Rival at the Sanctified Field.
Yeah, a lot of investment into Venenu there, but CaptainTwig forced to use his ult. Remember how I said that being useful around this Fury? Well, it's not going to be up for this one. SoloOrTroll doesn't have his ult, and he could be under pressure.
He's plucked up and over, but Rival don't finish off the kill just yet. Awesome. Jake will complete the transformation. Playing aggressively now on this front line. Will find a small disarm onto PBM. Rival, the tug and pull continues. LASBRA and SoloOrTroll in a 1v1. He's got to have 50 HP or less, but he's on the retreat. TKO onto LASBRA. SoloOrTroll will rejoin the fight as a result, and PandaCat will put down Jake. 3 members of Renegades. Full-on retreat is the Gold Fury started up by Rival.
Yeah, battle between the junglers and LASBRA using his beads there and his ultimate. I love the call from Sam, though. The discipline from Sam not to chase that kill on LASBRA. Because in theory, he probably could have found that kill. If he did so, though, he wouldn't have been with the rest of his team. And that would have created a 4v4 on that left-hand side. The fact that Sam rejoins that fray in that fight means that Rival have the man advantage, with LASBRA being completely out. And they pick up Jake and then just turn tail, go towards the Gold Fury. And it's a good result for Rival at the end of the day. Sometimes you don't see players do that in like your casual games, your rank games. You're looking for kills more than anything else. But kills are one of the ways to get towards the win. It's the objectives that really do it for you, though.
Yeah, you're speaking to me with the kills being the right call. If I'm SoloOrTroll, I'm chasing that down until the end of time. But Sam, a smarter player in every facet of the game, will return and fight with his team. Pyromancer on the flip side of the map, though, started up by the Renegades here, down 10% HP and nobody from Rival in range. So Fury for Pyromancer as all things stand, and the Renegades are able to pull a little bit back, still nursing about that 1,000 gold lead here on their side. Small win for the Renegades in the face of what was a losing fight by the Fury.
Still can't call who's going to win this one because it still feels very even between these two teams. Neither of them really playing very effectively yet, but I don't feel like I've had enough involvement from fineokay, and I'm going to say that because I've seen him in one fight. But since he's been in that fight, look at how that worked out for them. I felt Rival really got a good win with having Sobek into the fray here. So when we turn towards the team fights, once again, keep an eye on fineokay's plucks. I think he's going to make a big impact here as once again, BaRRa's forced to whoop.
Well, PandaCat's getting aggressive here, but there's a gank from LASBRA, and SoloOrTroll will put down the Renegades jungler, takes a little bit of damage in the meantime. Back from behind PandaCat was LASBRA. It's a 1-for-1 trade. BaRRaCCuDDa will dash away. Doesn't have the ultimate here. PBM may be looking to punish the defensive use just a moment ago. That pulls 3 members of the Renegades over, though, towards this long lane. Rival is there to counter out. I mean, you lose LASBRA, who has, you know, really started to have an impact on this game since going down early. SoloOrTroll, though, in the meantime, while LASBRA's been down, has pulled about a level ahead.
Yeah, I think PandaCat will be the one very upset about that for the most part. I think he definitely thought BaRRa was completely out of the fray and not even paying attention anymore and ran away. But BaRRa hanging around just made it a 1-for-1. And Panda wasn't even looking in his direction. But BaRRa getting a bit greedy is going to get punished here.
Does have beads and also the Aegis. No more beads, but doesn't use the Aegis, realizing it might have been fruitless. SoloOrTroll will finally complete what they set out to do a few minutes ago, and no ultimate, no life there for BaRRaCCuDDa, and he's now gray screen for the next 40 seconds.
And he did boost beads at the end there, so BaRRa's going to not have those available either. Taking into account that Sam and Mike did both use blinks just to get that kill onto BaRRaCCuDDa there, but at the same time, that was BaRRa being, for my liking, a little bit greedy for #1 more wave before returning to base. Like, if I could just get a little bit more, maybe I can get these chins online in time. But instead, he loses a bit more lane pressure now, as well as he's going to be down a little bit longer. PandaCat's back up. It means they're going to be able to look at this tier 1 tower. And LASBRA can't stop that on his own.
Yeah, tier 1 will take a tumble as Rival move themselves over there. Minute and 40 seconds on the Fury respawn, so that's not here for Rival to start up. fineokay just kind of solo pushing over in the solo lane a moment ago. One more proxied wave as maybe it's now the solo lane tier 1 tower that will catch a little bit of damage from these minion waves. SOT, though, I think all things considered, if we're kind of keeping that that thread of solo laners alive, the Vamana has looked good in some of these fights. He's found his way into the back line and made a difference.
It really, really has, but that's exactly what you see out of a Vamana for the most part, especially against an Olorun. That was the one character that the Pro League really found to shut down when we saw so much Olorun play before. And with Rival and specifically Twig leaning towards that pick a little bit more often now, it's one of the ways to really dissuade the pickup or like make you want to ban out a Vamana pick or think about where you draft it in the picks and bans phase anyway, just to not leave that so susceptible. Another good one for an extent is a Sobek in a way, because Sobek can also lurk in the waters too. So seeing those both in the fray is interesting. Not a huge amount of anti-heal, I want to say, on the side of Rival. They're not as concerned about this Vamana as the game goes on. I wouldn't mind seeing a bit of anti-heal, just because you've got the likes of Venenu too, that's gone for a bit of a soul gem pickup here, so he's going to have a bit more sustain for the team. So shutting that down could be impactful. 2 in mid though, a little bit far forward from Rival.
And they're going to get a little defensive now with the Sanctified Field, but SOT has continued his onslaught. CaptainTwig needs the shell of PBM to pay off big here.
Down.
But Vamana has taken absolutely no damage from this tower. CaptainTwig around and around he goes. SOT doesn't finish off the kill, but Awesome Jake does on the other side of this engagement. BaRRaCCuDDa finally with that final shot will finish him off. The auto-aim helping out big time. PandaCat with the double. BaRRaCCuDDa goes down. It's a 2-for-3 trade. Rival coming out just ahead.
Yeah, SoloOrTroll's going to be in that spot now where, like, guys, I legit just zoned 2 people from the fight. How the frick are you on the backside with 4 members not winning a 3v4? Can you help me out somewhere, please? The difference is Rival just responded well to the engagement. Great work from Twig, honestly, to buy as much time as possible with the support of PolarBearMike there. But the other side of the fight, Rival just annihilated, getting to BaRRaCCuDDa and LASBRA. Great plays from them, and now they get a Fury on the back of it. Rival just played that engagement so much better for me. I think SoloOrTroll did the right thing of keeping 2 members out of the fray. Sure, he bit a bit more off more than he could chew by staying under the tower so long, but you're kind of hoping your boys do the good work for you on the backside, and that didn't really happen there.
Right, you're effectively saying, well, I'm effectively killing this guy out of the fight, so hopefully it goes better elsewhere, and frankly, it didn't. And Rival were able to come out ahead by 1 kill, and now 1 Fury, and now 1 gold lead as well. About 1,000 in the favor, 2,000 even in favor of Team Rival. So the scale's now tipping back towards the opposite side. Remember, this is really the first kind of 2K gold lead that Renegades have maybe had here in this set, and Rival just been a bit cleaner on their shot calling, and the shot now, or the call now, is for the Pyromancer. Jake tries to jump in and steal it away, won't be able to do so, and Rival will complete that objective. SOT stunned down. Nuwa sends some fire shards down from elsewhere in the fight, and fineokay will pop the thorns and shrug off a decent amount of that damage. Aggressive jump forward from Jake, but it's Pyromancer and nothing else for Rival are happy to back off.
Yeah, we're seeing Venenu use the ultimate there as well. I wasn't really happy about seeing that fire shards. I don't think Ven really saw what was going on because he just kind of got run at by Mike 1v1. And I think he was worried about getting all indoor, a gank from somewhere else. So he used the ultimate earlier than bargained for. I guess it was a relic situation that he was a bit more nervous about. But if he had a bit more vision and knew what was going on there, I think he could have held on to it. Look at Solo, though, just beating away at 4. The bad news is he's not going to get a kill. And that's another ultimate used up by Renegades here at a moment where Rival are like, hey guys, our relics are coming back up, our ultimates are available. Renegades not the same sort of way though.
I suppose you can admire SOT. Hey, I can zone 3, why not 4? But now won't have the Colossal Fury for the next engagement. It's awesome Jake now, who's catching a little bit of the PBM CC, Sanctified Field. CaptainTwig zones out this fight. PBM jumps in on SOT as PandaCat taken solo by SOT. Don't need the Colossal Fury to do some damage to the Team Rival backline, and LASBRA, PandaCat, both able to escape with their lives.
Yeah, we've got two different fights sporadically happening now. We've got people diving the backline of Rival, PandaCat getting focused a little bit. Same can be said for the backline of, Renegades, or I should say the front line. Rival invested a lot into awesome Jake there, trying to burst him down, knowing his ultimate was on cooldown, but they couldn't find the angle. They didn't have the damage to bring him down. The reason being, the freaking carries were getting focused in the backline. So that's why they kind of split the fight open the entire time. I like the idea that we have, though. Rival just like, hey, let's try and burn through them while their ultimates are down. But you've got to make sure you look after the backline a little bit more. Credit where it's due to PandaCat, though, when surviving there, because he looked like he was definitely dead at one moment.
Yeah, SOT has that spectral armor, so it became a pretty obvious fight, maybe, for SoloOrTroll to take on the PandaCat, who has built into a little bit of that crit. You can see where SOT thinks a lot of that presence will come from. Awesome Jake as well. 2 spectral armors picked up here for the Renegades. So PandaCat's going to need to pick his targets properly in order to maximize his damage output in some of these fights. Anti-crit priority for the Renegades maybe before some bigger team fights start to happen around this Fire Giant.
Yeah, and that's the one thing with that spectral armor. It's always a battle of wills between the hunters and the solo lanes, or the tanks to an extent, and keeping an eye on each of his builds. Hey, did they go for any sort of crit defense? Nope. Okay, I'm going crit. And then they commit to crit, and the tanks go, oh, they've gone crit? Let me adjust my build and pick that up. So picking the spectral armor later on in the game is very smart for my liking in terms of what you see out of like tanks and solo laners for the most part. Like, just hold on that. See if they commit to crit. If they're committing to crit, then double down and reduce some of their damage. Makes a lot of sense to me. I don't think you necessarily need to draft it so early, unless you're against someone like, I don't know, maybe a Jing Wei with passive crit in the build. Like, then you want to maybe look at it a little bit earlier on. But outside of that, it's just a game of like keep an eye on the opposition's builds and adjust based off it.
Yeah, it's a weird game of build chicken, I suppose, and maybe it's the Renegades who have won it this time. With PandaCat with Wind Demon and Rage slightly stacked up and a couple spectral armors there for themselves. And we figured though, CaptainTwig usually, or maybe what we saw in game 1 was Relic into a couple of the rings. He's gone. The lifesteal items as well as 1 ring and 1 relic dagger here on the Olorun. Yeah. Nearing full build, is he going to be swinging to the potential that you'd want him to be at?
Yeah, Bancroft, Talon, Typhon's Fang are the 2 that he's picked up for lifesteal, and that's just the resustain option. If anything, there's a good chance with the mobility he's got from the Relic Dagger too, that if Twig dances well and keeps getting the same support out of PolarBearMike on that Artio to his advantage here, he can just zoom around this Vamana that's trying to run him down the entire time and keep punching him in the face and resustaining himself back up. Rival, though, definitely like further ahead in this one right now, I want to say. About 4K lead, but I just feel like they're more in control. It feels like Renegades are trying to play very reactionary to Rival getting aggressive. But the reason we've kind of seen the pace fall off for the last couple of minutes is Rival had decided to just wait it out a minute or two. See if Renegades want to try commitment and then turn it back around. If anything, it's just going to continue to extend the game a little bit longer because it's going to come down to a fire giant for me with how this one's going out right now. And I'm definitely favoring Rival in terms of fights at the Fire Giant. If it's going to be a situation of contesting, they've got a bit of a better situation to secure than their counterparts.
Well, CaptainTwig and just kind of passively saw him when they were doing the Fury. We mentioned the lifesteal and was effectively tanking the Fury damage that whole time and shrugged most of it off. It is the Pyromancer moved towards by Team Rival here. Long lane is pushing in for Rival. Slowly, but for a moment, will be pushed in towards that tier 2 tower over on the Renegades side. Maybe won't make a big difference, but could in a minute, as Pyromancer is taken down by Rival, and it's the short lane as well that's slightly pushing over towards the Renegades base. Maybe Rival take that as an opening elsewhere on this map.
Yeah, you saw the pings just go down on that tier 2 tower you were talking about there too. And I think the issue they've got, Renegades, here is because they've not got a teleport on the team, which is normally the natural defender, is send a teleporter over there, over the solo laner, or you send someone with a global rotation to that lane. They don't have the opportunity to do that. Over time, that tier 2 tower will fall because those minions are being kept on the edge, and Rival are looking to abuse that here at the Fire Giant. They realize no one's going to it, though, so they have to get off the Fire Giant, as Renegades were just waiting patiently for an opportunity to come in and take a fight.
It's fineokay up front, and it's LASBRA with Magai's cloak in tow, who will dash himself away. Venenu takes to the skies and rains down some damage, plugs 5 to 10% HP off everyone. Sanctified Field rolls through. SOT has found his way into the backline. A shell protects Rival from a good bit of the damage that SOT is trying to do, but maybe not enough. CaptainTwig, one swing away, and he ends up going down to the hands of that Vamana. SoloOrTroll has found the kill, though, onto BaRRaCCuDDa to maybe turn this fight around. Dancing in the back of this blue buff pit as Awesome Jake will burn away some damage, and Sam will leap away and somehow stays alive. Renegades, they might be looking to continue this fight, though. Instead, it's a disengage, a blue buff, and back themselves off.
Dawson, that Sanctified Field from Twig was so important in that engagement, honestly, because they all channeled through the same narrow corridor, and Renegades smelled blood for a second of like, hold up, we can nuke them as they go through this corridor one by one. If Twig at the back of the line doesn't use the Sanctified Field there, Renegades run straight through them. Instead, Renegades have to path around that ultimate, and they swing right towards the blue, and it buys time for Rival to reposition and go, okay, we can adjust now and take another fight back. fineokay, by the way, finding that pluck on BaRRaCCuDDa, that cost BaRRA everything pretty much there. Beads, Aegis, and still ends up getting nuked down. And that just takes the wind out of Renegade sails immediately. Great play from Rival on the defensive, but I love the aggression out of Renegades there too.
And it is eventually now the long lane that's pushed out, just as the check-in on the left side of the map. Rival, they'll move themselves right back in. Most actives used. fineokay will still have Thorns and Blink to aggress. Venenu may be worth looking at, the fact that he has Aegis and Beads. PandaCat still has the Aegis here, so some defensive options for a couple of the carries here in this game. But it's the frontliners now that we maybe need to be more worried about. Jake is aggressed upon, taken quite low, and he's wishing that he had an Aegis right about now. The transformation will delay things just a little bit as SoloOrTroll finishes off the kill. fineokay is now the frontliner deep in the backline. BaRRaCCuDDa turns it around for a double kill. Will he re-engage on the fight? No, he'll go back to base. It looks like Renegades are happy to take this 2v1.
So that fight was really interesting, because I'm like, if I'm Rival here, my carries will be screaming, saying, guys, I don't want to fight, my relics are down. Panda was in that situation, but so was Twig at that time. That's why his relics are up now. I think Twig's pathing kind of let him down there. He was trying to do a bit of a flank, and he ran into this Hachiman that was like, thanks very much. By the way, I've got crit. You better hope your lifesteal kicks in real quick, because you're going to need it. And BaRRA gets the tail end of fineokay on top of that. That was just unfortunate pathing from Twig that turns out well for Renegades. I think it was a bit suspect of Rival getting that aggressive there. I got the idea of it, but without their carries having relics and like not feeling too confident with position without them, it caused more of a problem. And now Renegades, they have a bit of an advantage, even though they're down in gold. It's going to be on these three to stop this.
Yeah, look at this call. Starting up the Fire Giant and now pulling back in PandaCat, who will leap away beneath the tier 2 tower. Huge escape. He has to leave the fight, but he does not have to leave the entire game for the next minute or so. That might save a Fire Giant attempt that the Renegades could have looked for.
Yeah, you see that ultimate from Venenu too, and it's just like checking the situation. Ven was actually looking for the pickle pieces of PandaCat there, if anything. Yeah. Panda was already recalling back to base. You've got to be aware of those new war ultimates. Those fire shards, they will hurt at this stage of the game for sure. And you can already see that player damage at 32,000 with how that one's looking here. And now, obviously, with that whole engagement going off, great play from Panda. And I love Rival's position in there. 3 members in a circle around them. Hey, which one are you going to go for? Cool, we're going to play D and just keep you off the fire giant. We're not after fights. We just want to make sure you get it. And SoloOrTroll's beads, what were they?
And the ultimate, both used now. If the fight doesn't go in Renegade's favor, Rival will have a massive advantage on a potential second fight. That is a disengage from SOT. No Colossal Fury to contest this fire giant that Rival have started up. 4 members of the Renegades right by that blue buff kind of opening there, moving in towards the FG. Sanctified Field trying to stop Awesome Jake from moving within contest range. 10% HP on the fire giant. Jake in range, but it's Rival that finish it off, and Sam for Soccer has found a kill in the meantime. He moves forward at the double kill on the SOT. He's gonna keep going after triple kill for Sam for Soccer. A rampaging fineokay. Awesome Jake, 0% HP. That's the deicide. That's the fire giant, and Hindu man, that could just be game.
Dude, Sam for Soccer in that fight gets hold of Venenu and goes, come here, lad. He jumps away from Ven after killing him, straight into the path of another target. He goes, well, I guess I'll get this kill too. And LASBRA goes in. PolarBearMike uses a beautiful shell, and then that just gives Sam a triple kill. What an end.
My goodness, Team Rival, what a resurgence in this one. Again, they started slightly behind, but they finish it on top. They complete their 2-0 week and plant themselves firmly in first place here in the SPL. That was a fun one, though, Hindu.
Really was.
Game 2, we're averaging 1 kill every 30 seconds or whatever it was.
Seconds.
This one big comes back. It's a good looks, though, I think, for the Renegades. Maybe some nitpicky moments here and there, but it's not the kind of tip and fall over Renegades that we maybe saw at the beginning of the split. But it is Team Rival, nonetheless, that complete the comeback here, and they complete this week 2-1 over the Renegades.
Completely agree, Dave. I think.
Yeah, I don't care what you think, Hindu man. It's our turn to talk. You've talked enough. It was a 3-game set. No one cares anymore. All I care about is what Sam for Soccer's doing right now, because I want to make sure that he doesn't just insta-kill me like he did Venenu. Look, Sam did not have the best game 1 and 2 here, Miff. His game 3 was stellar. Just absolutely phenomenal on that Awilix.
He completely pops off of the backline of the enemy team. We see SOT consistently zoning off 2-3 members, gets both shells popped, can't get the kill because of those shells. And meanwhile, what's Sam doing? Completely obliterating a 4v2 in the backline. Consistently. This Awilix had top damage from the 15-minute mark. That's not easy to do. You have a new Wa on your team. If she presses 4, she's hitting 5 members every single time. Sam just plays out of his mind.
Beast, man. That last fight, he pre-pops his ult, blink auto, 3 auto, 2 auto, deletes one guy, jumps over to SoloOrTroll, 1 hits him, a big shell from PBM keeps him up, and the rest is history. 8-2 for him on this Awilix. fineokay returns to the dark side of the Sobek, but does exactly his job and finds these initiations consistently. PandaCat played very, very well in this Hou Yi. And all of that being said, I think Renegades still deserve a ton of credit. They were still in this game for the vast majority of it. This Renegades team continues to impress me week in and week out, even if they aren't necessarily finding the wins.
They consistently show that they can potentially win the game. Around that 18-minute mark, when I saw SOT literally zone out 3 members for the 4th time in a row, I said to myself, wow, well, the Renegades are eventually just going to have to win that 4v2 in their own backline, and then SOT's done his job just well enough. But unfortunately, they just weren't quite able to finish off those kills. They weren't quite able to leverage all that space that SOT was creating. If Renegades can clean that up even a little bit, this game's absolutely 100% different.
Man, that play from Sam was nearly just completely insane. If he would have been able to turn the camera a little bit of LASBRA to stop that Typhoon, but still finds a quick 1v1. Panda was doing everything you need your hunter to do. PBM had a couple questionable positioning mistakes, is my diplomatic way of saying it, but eventually turns it around and I think has a very, very solid game.
Speaking of PBM, I gotta meme the boy for just a split second here. 1 minute into the game, he walks to the enemy speed buff that's already been cleared out, looks at the back camp, swings 1 auto at the sky, sees that he's moving at 0.5 speed, and then just walks away. I was just laughing the entire time. PBM, though, does find the dub in the very end, cleans it up, gets the engagements that he needs, peels out for his boys, and the shell placement always consistently on that Olorun to make sure that SOT couldn't finish him off. That's exactly what you need.
It was a good day at the office for Mike because he checked all the check boxes. Did he troll a little bit? Check. Did he win anyways? Check. Did he make BaRRaCCuDDa sad a couple times? Check that more than once. Rival find another 2-1 victory this week, this time over the Renegades. And they continue to streak up those standings, 7-2 now alone in that 2-loss column. Sanguine at 5-3. So Rival is your undisputed #1 team as of right now. But their last 2 games have been against the 6th seed and the 7th seed, and they've both gone to 3 games.
That just shows how competitive the league is. I'm not willing to knock Rival even in the slightest. These teams have been doing incredibly well the entirety of the season. Obey finally finds their first win. This is the most competitive the SPL has ever been. I'm going to get sick of saying it eventually, but it still rings true.
Well, I said earlier on that one interview with Sam for Soccer is always a treat. What's 2 treats? It's a double scoop of treats here with Sam joining us after his big win.
Sam for Soccer with me to talk about the Rival win over the Renegades here today. Now, that's a scrappy set, I think, Sam. Back and forth, high kills in game number 2. What are some team takeaways? It sure was fun to watch, but were games like that fun to play in, high pace, high action?
Generally I'd probably say yes, but I think personally I had like a pretty bad set, you know? I think
a triple kill at the end of game 3 isn't bad, right?
Yeah. I mean, game 3, I think I stepped it up a bit more, but my game 1 and 2 weren't ideal. But I think as a team, like, we're still fine with how it went. I think game 2 we threw pretty hard. Mike kind of decided to troll a little, you know, maybe ult under Phoenix with Horus,
right.
And we kind of got team wiped after that. And then after that, we lost to, like, a fighter on fire, and they kind of just came back, and yeah.
Right, a little trolly from Mike, but gets the win nonetheless. Aggro was talking about the check boxes. I mean, if you can troll and win, if you're Mike,
right, yeah.
You're always going to be happy about it. Now, this is a longer week for you guys, 6 games, but you do get the 2-0 week against United and the Renegades. Did you expect this week to be a little bit longer? We're starting to see some of these teams get real competitive. So are you surprised maybe to see that both your sets go 2-1?
Maybe a little surprised, yeah. I think that the league is definitely really competitive for sure. The thing is, like, even with any big league, every team is good enough where, and the way like the map works, like with coming back, I mean, you just make one mistake, and honestly, you can be right back in the game, and it's honestly pretty even. Maybe it's like 1 or 2 team fights, so it's a really big lead. Like, we had a 10k lead, we threw at the Phoenix, and then one more fight, and it's basically dead even game. So, yeah, just with how competitive it is, you just kind of have to play really clean with your leads.
Well, final question here for you, Sam. With that, you move 2 games clear of the teams vying for that first place spot. SSG and Sanguine will play next week to try to close that gap a little bit, but nonetheless, you guys are in sole possession of first place. How much does that mean to you guys as a team, or is it kind of secondary to a bigger goal?
Yeah, I mean, it always feels nice, right, to be in first, but it doesn't mean too much. It's like still the middle of a split, basically. Definitely, I'd say the secondary goal. Everything kind of comes down to Worlds in the end of it, but like it's nice to be doing well right now, and hopefully we can maintain like first till the end of the split.
Hey, if nothing else, it reflects you guys doing well in the Battlegrounds. Congrats on the 2-0 week. Sam, most recently 2-1 over the Renegades. That's all the Smite we've got for you this week, so we'll go back to the desk to wrap things up.
Dolson, I know you just did the interview, but I was told to do a chair promo of some sort, and I just don't know what to do. Look at Mackenzie back there and know that she'll be sad if you don't go to Maxonomic and grab this great chair. $50 off using code SMITEMAX, and needforseat.com is the place to go for that. You guys can't tell, but she's really sad if you guys don't do it. So it's probably a good idea if you just do it. And make sure you have it for as soon as possible, because the good Smite Pro League action is going to continue for a while at this rate. Next week certainly included. This week had a bunch of very, very close games, some long 3-game sets, as it seems like teams are trying to make up for the fact that it was all 2-0s for the vast majority of the regular season up until this point. Miff, I mean, it's been a pretty crazy week for us here. We'll see what we have in store coming up pretty soon, but man, it just feels like you never know exactly what's going to happen here.
Oh, sorry, you caught me dozing. You don't sell chairs nearly as well as Dave does, but you're absolutely right on that tail end point that, yeah, any team can compete incredibly well. Sorry, man, really put me to sleep on
Dude,
that one. Ugh.
Okay, I was actually going to do a little bit, but I didn't have time. I just found out during the interview I had to do it. I was going to do a card trick with, like, you know, you're a joker if you don't have a Maxonomic chair, but become a king by going for it. I was going to do it, and then I thought I would save it for next time, but now I'm being called out, and I'll get it done next time around. Mackenzie, I didn't know she was right behind me until it's too late. I don't know, man. Let's just get to the schedule, as we've had a pretty long week here with the SEC playoffs and everything like that. Next week, we return to a bit of normalcy. Friday, we're going to kick it off with Space Station up against Sanguine and PK up against the new and improved Obey Alliance, Sinosure. We'll see if his revenge tour continues up against the defending world champs. A big matchup, though, a little bit later on here for Radiance, because Obey versus Radiance, last week I would have told you easy money for Radiance. Now, Obey on the climb, Radiance slipping a little bit. That's going to be an interesting one. We'll see what happens. We'll have to wait until next Saturday for that. Make sure you stay tuned all week long. We've always got great stuff. A lot of community streamers here on twitch.tv/SmiteGame and mixer.com/SmiteGame. So thanks so much for watching the SPL and SEC playoffs this week. We'll see you next time here on the channel. You can peach it.